Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another edition of the Reality TV RHAPpy Hour. My name is Jordan Parhar, and as always, I'm here to talk some reality TV with you on RHAPasawebsite.com. Today, we're going to be talking some Big Brother with you guys because it's been a while. Big Brother 17 just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, and I figured it was time to bring back the trio that swept the nation this summer, even more so than the Wax Street Boys. It's the Rob Has a Podcast live feed correspondents. Guys, how are you doing?
So good.
Yay! So happy to be here.
That's right. Brent, Alex, Taran, they're all reunited. They're here with me today. We're going to be talking some Big Brother. It's going to be a great podcast. I'm really excited. We're here on Blab. We're live. So if you want to leave us some questions, you can do so in the comments on Blab. There's four of us today, so we're not going to be kicking people out and taking phone calls. Maybe at the very end if Brent's connection dies, like last time when he was on Blab. But otherwise, we're just going to keep it with just us today. So it should be fun. I'm really excited to do this. So we're going to be ranking the Big Brother US seasons today, and I think this is going to be really fun. No tabulator, so I'm the faux tabulator today. I compiled the four of our rankings, all of them together, and I averaged them out. And we have a consensus Rob Has a Podcast, or Friends of Rob Has a Podcast rankings for Big Brother US. So it's going to be very good, very exciting. I got a Google document going. We've got all this stuff up. So we're going to run through all of these seasons. We're going to talk about them from 17 to 1. It's going to be a ton of fun. And before we get into this, guys, how are you doing? You guys, I haven't talked to you guys in a while. How is post Big Brother 17 life? Have you guys finally been able to sleep? Alex, have you gotten any sleep since the Big Brother season has ended?
Oh yeah, but obviously you can tell by listening to my voice that I'm currently fighting off something and kind of managing my situation over here. But I'm feeling good. I'm really excited to be doing this show. And as you famously put it earlier, it's very much a Jerry voice kind of thing that I've got going on right now. So this will be fun. I'm looking forward to hearing myself like this.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. We maybe get a couple screw you peoples or you're going home halfway through this podcast. Yeah. I think that'll be fun. Taran, you also went to live know-it-alls this past week, and you do not sound like Alex. So what for future people wanting to go to live know-it-alls, what would you suggest to end up like you and not like Alex?
I don't know, because I feel like I probably did everything wrong. I ended the night with like a 30-minute pizza hunt that ended terribly. We didn't find any pizza.
You didn't find any pizza in New York?
I know, right? It was crazy. Apparently there was pizza like really close and we couldn't find it. We just walked forever. And then I stayed a couple more nights in New York, and then I went to a comedy show in Providence. Saw Bo Burnham, who's really awesome. Everyone should check him out. Oh, Burnham,
that's great.
Yes. But yeah, I had yesterday to rest, and that's all. But I'm good now. So
okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. And we've and you know who's not good is Brent Wolgamott, because we just lost him on the connection. And if you guys remember, the beginning of September, there was a live feed correspondent show on Blab with Rob, Taran, and Alex, and Brent. But Brent had a lot of trouble getting on the connection. Connection was messing up, so he kept dropping. Okay, here we go. Looks like he's back.
Blab hates Brent needs to be an early favorite for a hashtag here.
Yes, hashtag Blab hates Brent. Okay, Brent's trying to join this thing, and this is hilarious. I said last week I was having technical difficulties with Haley, and now we're having these again. Here we go. But Brent's back. Brent, you're okay. You're back. You're live. And you were in Vegas last week, and I saw on Facebook.
Yes.
You went to dinner with Lloyd from Entourage.
I went to dinner with somebody who's in Entourage, or was in Entourage, as it was.
Yeah, that's Lloyd, man. You don't watch Entourage?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know. Like, all us gay people on the planet, we all know each other. That's how it goes. No, I'm seriously. In all seriousness.
Oh no, we can't hear you, Brent. Oh, there we go. Try that again.
I'm so sick of this.
I hear you now. Okay.
This is so terrible. I'm so fucking over this, you guys. I'm serious. Anyway, so do this if you can't hear me anymore, because I don't want to keep talking if you can't hear me.
Got it.
A friend of mine in the picture, Brian, is friends with Rex, and they have previously gambled together. They're very big slot players, as am I, as you know. And so we all went to Vegas together this time, and we lost our ass together. I would have much rather went to Know-It-Alls and had a great time, but instead I was in Vegas losing $3,500, which my partner really thinks is $1,500, but we won't tell him, and he won't watch this podcast.
All right. Well, there we go, Brent. Well, you know what? Honestly, if I had a choice between losing $3,500 with Lloyd from Entourage or going to Live Know-It-Alls, I think I would choose the former. I think I would choose what you did, Brent. So
right.
Good on you.
and I have really some fun videos with him too. Not that I'm not advertising my channel here, but because it's just for fun. But I put up all of the videos of us gambling together, and it's so much fun to be slotting with Rex because he gets so irritated when we don't get the bonus.
All right. Well, as always, let's get into this discussion here. Enough with the Know-It-Alls talk. Enough with the Lloyd from Entourage, who I love, by the way. Let's get into some Big Brother US rankings. This is going to be a really fun show. I'm very excited. I've been waiting all week for this. I remember when I messaged you guys with this idea, I was very pumped when you guys all said yes. And we had to move the schedule around a little bit. Normally we're live on Saturdays, so we moved this to Sunday so to accommodate everyone, to get everyone in here. And I thought, maybe Alex will be feeling better. He's not, but that's okay. We'll be good. This will be fun. I'm very excited. So how we're going to start this is we're going to just start from the bottom. We're going to work our way to the top, and we're going to get into it from there. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, again, leave them here on Blab. We're live with you guys, so it's going to be really fun. Very excited. Okay, the very first season we're going to get into, number 17. And this was the consensus last ranked season. We ranked all 17 seasons. It came in with an average rank of 17.0. It is very, very great season. Whoa, that's wild. It's Big Brother 1. Big Brother 1 is in last place. Season 1, the winner was Eddie McGee. And the memorable characters from that season, I was trying to come up with some of them. Chicken George, who we saw again in Big Brother All-Stars. Eddie, I mean, I don't know. Other than that, is there anybody who's really memorable from this season, Taran?
No. I mean, I don't think anything
Will Mega.
Memorable.
Yes, Will Mega. That's
Maybe.
who I had on my list, Alex. Will Mega, I think, was maybe someone who you could say was memorable, but he was gone so quick. So I don't even know.
I think Whoa, That's Wild is the most memorable thing from that season now. I mean...
But Brent, what about you? Is there any memorable moments at all? Is there anything? Did you watch Big Brother 1? Because I'll be honest, I didn't watch all of it. I couldn't make it through. I've tried on rewatches and I just can't. I saw Dr. Drew and I was like, that's cool. Dr. Drew's on this, but that was it.
That's the thing. I will be honest with you guys. Of all the seasons, that's the only one I haven't watched. So in fairness to it, I mean, I did rank it last. And I would also like to point out to people that I haven't looked at anybody else's rankings ahead of this, so I don't really know what everyone else ranked. So I'm glad to see that everyone ranked it with me in last place. But I would give it more of an incomplete, like in a grading system. I'd give it an I because the show really didn't know what it was at the time. They were still experimenting. They obviously found the all right formula in Big Brother 2 and then, perfected that more in Big Brother 3 and 4. But they were still finding their feet. It's unlike Survivor, which the first season is, by many people's standards, one of the best seasons ever of Survivor. Big Brother, not so much.
Yeah, I've always kind of seen season 2 as the first season of Big Brother. It was kind of like the thing that started it all. I don't really see season 1 as a season of Big Brother so much as I see it as a separate show that kind of spun off into something different. So,
right.
Saying it's the worst, it maybe isn't fair because it's so different that, you can't really rank it with the other ones.
It's almost like a pilot season where they really just are like, all right, what the F are we doing here? And we're just kind of piecing it together as they went. I mean, you really get the sense watching it that they didn't know what they were doing. And then they kind of came back in season 2, at least in my mind, with a much more complete finished product.
Yeah, the way I would compare it would be to, and if anybody's a fan of late 80s, early 90s morning or young teen sitcoms, it's sort of like comparing Good Morning Miss Bliss to Saved by the Bell. You can't really compare. It's and that's a very obscure reference, but if you're a fan of Saved by the Bell, yes. Brent got it. Okay, yes. So I mean, it's the show. It's like the same characters are there. You still have like you still had Zach Morris and you still have Screech and that kind of stuff. But in Big Brother 1, you have that. You still have a house. You still have people going up for banishment. You still have Julie Chen, but it's completely different. And yes, I agree. The pilot season thing, and that's a great point, Alex. And I agree with you, Taran. I think it's a completely different show. So I'm with Brent. I think maybe we probably should have omitted this one from our rankings, but for the purposes of this, I just thought, hey, whatever, 17 seasons, 17 rankings. It sounds better, less confusion if people ask. There you go. So season 1 is last place. I don't think anybody's really going to argue with that. And I'm sure by the end of this thing, it's going to be posted on robhasawebsite.com, and I'm going to have so many people saying, wow, well, one, I'm going to have so many people saying they hate me, and two, it's going to be like, man, you're so dumb. Why did you have this season here? But I guarantee not one person listening to this is saying, wow, they ranked Big Brother 1 in last place. What are they doing? Oh my God. And maybe we'll talk about this number 16. Maybe that's the only argument I could see, but otherwise, no. I mean, it's just a completely different show. Now, let's just hop right into it. Let's get into number 16, and we're gonna fly through these early ones here. The other ones, I think we can have more to discuss, more to debate because we have some differences. And number 16, also consensus last place ranking, average rank of 16.0, and this is a season that is just a complete and utter train wreck, and it makes sense. It was put together during the famous, I think it was 2007 they had a writer's strike, or 2008 they had a writer's strike. So CBS was just dying to get something on the air, get an extra reality TV show, and this was the only season of Big Brother ever to air during the winter, and that is the infamous Big Brother 9. And
till death do us part.
Brent, I want to hear what are your thoughts? Just one word you could use to describe Big Brother 9 for us.
Caustic. It was just awful. The people for the most part were awful. The winners and the finalists were awful people. Even the gay guy on there was the most horrid, awful, caustic, terrible human being that I've ever seen on a reality TV set of mine. So I don't know what to say about Big Brother 9 other than don't watch.
Yeah, if you're listening to this to find out what seasons to rewatch, here's a tip: don't watch Big Brother 9. Just go try and find maybe a few clips on YouTube, but it's just a complete waste of time. I tried getting through it once again. It's just I couldn't do it. Taran, Alex, have you ever rewatched that season?
I've never rewatched it all the way through. I've rewatched clips of it. Again, though, I went back and watched it because I hadn't started watching Big Brother until after Big Brother 9. And yeah, in addition to everything Brent said, I think also it's a terrible, terrible production twist. This whole, let's go ahead and match people based on personality profiles and force them to play with complete strangers. I mean, we just saw multiple instances of that just being the death of certain people's games who could have potentially been good. And I just, there's a lot in the con column for me for this season and not much to take away that's positive.
Yeah, this was actually one of the few seasons, maybe the only season I stopped watching during the airing of it. Partly because it was during the winter and I was busy with other stuff, but also just I couldn't finish it. So I have gone back and rewatched it. It is one that I usually skip over if I'm rewatching seasons, though.
I will say really quickly, though, Jordan, in fairness to them, this is the only bit of props that I will give Big Brother 9. They did have a little bit of bad luck. This is the first time that I can remember where a reality TV season cast two gay guys together at the beginning of the season as a couple. And I was so pumped about that because I'm like, are they going to boink in the Big Brother house? I mean, people all the time talk about straight people, are they going to do it in the Big Brother house? And that's so cool to talk about, but you've never seen, two same-sex couples or same-sex couple go into the Big Brother house. And, I know if I was in there after 3 months or so, if there was one other gay guy there, I'd start looking pretty hard at him. I'm just saying. And the other thing too was they had this twist where they brought back one of the people that was evicted pre-jury, and Alex was the overwhelming favorite to come back into the house. America loved him. They thought he didn't get a fair shot. And then Big Brother, in their infinite wisdom, decided to ask the house guests who they want back. And of course, they decided to pick the devil they know, which was Crazy James, right, instead of the devil they don't know, because they didn't know who the production didn't say to, or Big Brother didn't say to the people, Alex is going to be the one coming back. They said it's this box and you don't know who's in it. And so of course they're going to pick Crazy James to come back to the house. So all of America who was voting for Alex to come back in was let down by that. And then from there, it was just a complete train wreck.
And also you've got people that were really, really hated dubbing their alliance team Christ. I mean, I know that did not go over well with a large portion of America. It speaks to, people hate to see like just blatant hypocrisy when they're investing so much time into this. It's also why I think a lot of people got so frustrated with Vanessa, but that was like hypocrisy groupthink on a level that was just, I think more than most people could tolerate.
Yeah, and there was no Janelle and Kaser to kind of balance it out.
Exactly. No. Yeah. Well, what's wrong with Big Baller and Ryan, Taran? Huh? What's wrong with them?
I think the justice system has a problem with them.
Now, I was talking about this with Rob. I think Big Baller and Maddie are out of jail now.
Yes, I believe they are.
Yeah. Shout out to Big Baller if you're out there right now. But yeah, I think that's another reason why this season is just remembered so poorly. Is that, and someone asked us a question about this in the pre-show, was what does the winner of the season affect how you feel about the season? And I think in this season, absolutely. I think if we had a somewhat decent winner, maybe we would remember a little bit, although it's quite the train wreck and it is quite terrible. But the fact that Big Baller is the winner, and Big Baller, honestly, if you just look at him objectively, if we were to put Big Baller in a simulator and put him in 100 seasons of Big Brother, I actually think he would do decent a lot of the time, just because people found him endearing. They kind of liked him, even though he turned off a lot of people at the start, like Sheila. But just the fact that after he won the game, he started a drug ring, he goes to jail, he makes the comments about the autistic children he's working with when he's in the house, and like there's all that controversy over that. So I just think because of that, I think that's a big reason why it's just remembered so negatively, and it's just never going to be one of those seasons where I feel any nostalgia towards, just because, yeah, it's just terrible. And then again, Brent mentioning the gay guy, Joshua, I believe was his name. He mentioned doing like cocaine off of guys, like off of certain male body parts and things like that. And the live feeds were insane that season. So if you have time, look up Big Brother 9 live feed controversy. It's very interesting. There were some things going on in hot tubs. It was great. So yeah, Big Brother 9.
I will say that I do think Big Brother 9 has its fans. It's such a train wreck that some people appreciate that and they enjoy watching it. And I think that's something that should be said. But I don't think we are among those people.
No.
Yeah, and Elias247 in the chat room reminded me that another thing that really ticked people off about that season is like the one quasi-likable person left in Sharon was really screwed by an HOH question that was, how many couples were in the house, and you were supposed to count the hamsters. Like,
it was
dubious at best.
Yeah, it was how many pre-existing relationships were there going into the game, because Jen and Ryan were dating before the show started, and they said the number of pre-existing relationships before the show was 2, and then everyone said false, or I think Sharon said false. But then the correct answer actually was true, because they said the hamsters in the house were a pre-existing relationship. Like, that is that's bogus. Could you imagine on Twitter now the backlash? If that happened this season, people would lose their minds. People were losing their minds over the competition where Johnny Mac had to come in the house this season, and they were saying Vanessa was sitting down over that, and people were there, she's breaking the rules. If that would have happened, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine. But let's move on from Big Brother 9. We don't need to give this season any
Let's move on. Yeah.
Let's move on. So Big Brother 9. So number 17 is Big Brother 1. Number 16 is Big Brother 9. That was the consensus across the board. Number 15, and here is the first season where we had some differing rankings here. We had 2 people rank this as their 13th season overall, and we had 2 people rank this as their 14th season overall. In this season, we saw some fighting, we saw some drama, we saw some twists, we saw a little a coup d'etat, if you will, that was actually used. We saw some fighting in the backyard. We saw a lot of crying, and that is season 11. Big Brother 11 comes in at number 15 with an average rank of 13.5. So Jordan Lloyd's season, Jeff and Jordan, their first season, is in at number 15. Initial thoughts on this, Alex? What do you think about that?
11 is so hard for me to rank, because I really feel like if it wasn't for the coup d'etat, I would have really enjoyed the season. I like the cast in general. I like the way that kind of the house was shaping out. There was 2 clear sides. It was really, becoming the kind of game that fans, really want to see. And, simultaneously that coup d'etat, evicted the guy who arguably was playing the best game at the time in Jesse, which is, crazy that he came back from 10 and seemingly played that much better of a game in 11, but I really believe he did. And then, Shima quitting later because of it. I mean, it really just swung the tides. It turned the season from something that to me had all the potential in the world into a semi-predictable run. And then you get to the final 3. And I think, I certainly think Kevin is a very underrated player. Yeah. I think Natalie was a great strategist. And I just, through, kind of a variety of different things, I feel like we got one of the least strategic winners in the history of the game. And I don't think it's, I think it's pretty hard to argue against that.
Oh, yeah, not one of the least strategic winner to ever win this game, Alex. I think that's in my opinion, I think I love Jordan Lloyd to death. If I'm picking who do I love the most out of winners of Big Brother, I think Jordan's up there for sure. She's got to be one of my favorites just because she's so nice and genuine and kind-hearted. But strategically, Jordan didn't really do too much. That's why she got to the end. That's why she won the game. And I think for me, that's why it's a little bit lower in my ranks. Brent, what about you? What are your thoughts on season 11?
I think there was just a lot of ugliness that infected the middle part of that season. Shima quitting in such a gross way really just rubs me the wrong way. The way that Lydia acted after the coup d'etat hit. I mean, I could sort of empathize with her, but it was just so ugly. And the whole thing, it's so funny because in the beginning of the show, remember that was the click season.
Yes.
And it felt like high school to me. Big Brother often feels like high school, but this season more than anything really just felt like high school to me, which of course for many of us, we don't have fond memories of that. I personally, I'm evaluating, I don't know how you guys did it, but I'm evaluating these seasons at the time that I watched them. Like how much enjoyment did I get out of watching these seasons? And I just didn't get it out of Big Brother 11. And then the final 3, I know you guys, I can appreciate some of you saying that Kevin was a good strategist and Natalie maybe as well. I personally didn't. I think they were just the lesser of everybody else. Like all of the big guns in the house were the people that were the great strategists, the people that were really running the game. And Kevin made one good move, in my opinion, to get himself to the final 3. And that was enough. I was sort of warmed by the fact that he didn't win, although I was sort of bummed because of the 3, he probably was the most deserving winner. But I really didn't think any of them did much to get there. I really thought they just were they were the lesser of everybody else while everybody else fought. And I hate seasons like that.
How dare you insult Scrappy Doo, Brent? How dare you?
Well, I just, like I said, he had one good move where him and Natalie told Jeff the lie about Russell coming after him, which was a good move, and I give him credit for that, and certainly saved their ass that week. And then he, went back and betrayed Jeff the following week and somehow made it to the final 3. So I'll give him props for that. That's why I don't have it ranked. I think I had it ranked 13th on my list.
Right.
So I didn't even have it ranked as low as the consensus has it. But just so much ugliness. I just couldn't take it at the time. I didn't even want to watch the show at the time. I didn't get any enjoyment out of watching Shima go off the rails. I felt sorry for them. I really did. I felt like the producers, it was just a bridge too far. And, I'm used to a little bit of producer hanky-panky, but this one was just more than the eye or the fans could take.
Right. Now, Taran, what do you think about, and now just talking through season 11, something that I think it's just a what-if question is, do you think that maybe if we didn't have this coup de Jeff thing happen, and if we maybe had a few of these other people stick around, like Ronnie, like, and who, I don't know, whoever, depends on early on, but maybe Braden staying around early on. Do you think that we could have had a potential, like, poor man's version of season 6 going on here with like 2 sides going head to head? Because that's kind of what we had set up at one point, right?
It did kind of feel like Jesse's side was kind of about to steamroll the other side. That's how I felt. That said, though, I still think that would have been a more interesting season, at least for me. I feel like the coup d'etat really just took all the steam away from the season. Jesse was by far the person who was, leading the house as far as strategy, and I really wanted to see how that was going to go. Was he going to have a big downfall that wasn't, twist assisted? That would have been really interesting to see. There were a bunch of unlikable people in the house. A lot of the likable people went early. So I'm not sure that even if there was a divided house, there would have been that. It wouldn't have been as polarizing as Big Brother 6, I don't think, because you do have Jeff and Jordan, but they were probably out the door pretty quickly without the coup d'etat.
Right.
So I would have liked to see the season without the coup d'etat. Personally, I watched Big Brother for strategy, and Big Brother 11 had very little of it, especially after the coup d'etat. It was a lot of just who won the competitions and Kevin doing something here and there. Lots of drama, though. So for people who like the drama and who like Jeff and Jordan, I do think it's probably ranked pretty low for you. I don't think we, the four of us, have that, as a criteria as much. But that's how I see it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's probably going to be a lot of Jeff and Jordan fans out there who are bummed out that we have this low. But two people can't make a season. And I think we're a lot of us here, for the most part, we're thinking about this in terms of just enjoyment. But yeah, the strategic part of the game is why we watch this show. And there wasn't a ton of that this season. A lot of unlikable people, like you said, Taran, and some of the people that I would have liked to have seen stick around a little bit longer, like Jesse, who, despite the fact he was not the most likable person, but it would have been interesting if he would have stuck around. Ronnie would have been very interesting to watch if he would have stuck around. Russell, if he could have gone deep in the game. I mean, there was some potential here. I just think that for whatever reason, it didn't work. And I think that also as well, I think that this season would have been better, and maybe this is just, and Kirk Clark and I feel the same way about this, I'm sure, if you listen to the BB Second Chances with the Z podcast over the summer. But I think if Brian Hart was on this season, it would have been very exciting, and it would have been very interesting to see. I don't know if you guys disagree with that, but that's what I would have wanted to see.
That is easily one of the most disappointing things in all of Big Brother for me, that we were so close to getting Brian back, and we got Jesse instead. And I'm not like somebody who hates Jesse. I think he was good on the season, but I would have really loved to see Brian on that season. And I feel like we missed our opportunity. He's never coming back now, and that's just really unfortunate.
And I think the athletes got a huge, huge boost there that they didn't need to begin with, just to start the season on a bit of a kind of an unfair playing field, which, anytime the first week is kind of, off to that kind of a start, I don't think it bodes very well for a season.
And speaking of like production interference, Brent, do you think that there was sort of that? Do you think they must have known the athletes were going to win that first competition? No?
Oh, yeah, certainly. That's the thing I was going to say. Well, obviously the producers must have wanted to have Jesse come back, because you looked at that competition where, for people who don't remember, look who I'm talking to. These are all the Big Brother addicts. But for people who don't remember, there was a competition to come back. And, the people in the house had to compete. And if their team won, then the house guest who was outside, each clique had a particular house guest. You knew that Cowboy's team was not going to win that competition. Let's be real. Ryan's team was not going to win. And I forget who was the girl who was there?
Jessica Eubanks.
Jessica. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, you knew who was going to win this competition when you looked at it. So it was this is what's called to me by non-rigging rigging, where they're not rigging it, but they know what the result is. I will contend when we get there, Big Brother 17 rigged the Final Four veto for Vanessa in a rigging way, because every other season has had a particular type of veto for Final Four. And all of a sudden, the days competition, which is all you have to do is hit a little button, run back. That we'll talk about it, but that's non-rigging to me. I don't buy for a second that was what they really had planned at that spot. But we'll talk about it. Go on.
All right, we'll keep going. All right. I'm excited. This is going to be good. Okay, so we're going to go on. We're going to move on. So on to the next one. Number 14 in the ranks. And for this one, this was an interesting one. Alex, Taran, and myself had this season ranked as number 15 overall.
Really?
Number 15 overall. Brent had this season ranked number 4 overall. So this is going to be a very interesting discussion. So this kind of moved this one up in the rankings.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one is Big Brother 13, season 13.
Yes, bitches. Big Brother 13 is here.
Big Brother 13 is here. Winner, Rachel Riley. We had a lot. It's some memorable new characters. We had Lawan. We had Shelly. We had Keith and his Angels. We had Lawan's superpowers this season. We had Danny Donato teaming up with the newbies. We had Evil Dick leaving the game. We had Pandora's box being opened, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So this is an interesting season. Big Brother 13. A lot of fans. This is a very polarizing season. There's people like Alex, Taran, and I who have this at 15, and there's people like Brent who have this at number 4. So, Brent, let's have you lead it off. Why do you have this as your number 4 rated season?
Okay. Here's the thing I want to talk to you guys about. All right. I was evaluating all these seasons, and I was talking to myself as because I didn't look at any of your rankings before I ranked mine, because I thought that would influence me. So I'm like, well, what is the driving force in how I liked these seasons at the time? And I finally distilled it. I watch a lot of Once Upon a Time. I've actually done the recap a couple of times with Mike Bloom, and they always talk about heroes and villains. And the shows that had great heroes and villains are the ones that I just absolutely love. The shows that it's a little murky or there's just too many villains are the ones that I really hate. Like Big Brother 9, Big Brother 11. You had Jeff and Jordan, but I didn't even really like them. I viewed them more as villains because of the coup d'etat. So that's what really vaults a show up the rankings to me. You said earlier, Jordan, that 2 people cannot make a season. But one bitch can make a season, and her name is Rachel Riley. Let me just tell you, this girl comes into the Big Brother house with 80s hair up to Jesus, okay? A sequin dress with boobs out to here, and more makeup than Meryl Streep in Death Becomes Her herself. And she is there to win competitions. She is not hiding in the background. She is out front. She wants to win, and she doesn't care how many competitions she has to win to get to the end, all right? All right. So she's a target coming in. She's not hiding in the back like everybody else, all right? Then go to week 2. She's not even the HOH, but she cares so much about the game early on that she's willing to take 2 weeks of slop just to get the results she wanted in the veto competition, even though she was in practically no danger. And by the end of it, you're getting this glorious television of her over in the bushes crying about the veto while Brendan's trying to get her to come out. I mean, it's just fucking glorious television, all right? All right, so then you
Bookie, come on, Bookie,
oh, right?
Hey, but I don't like when you call me that.
I'm just getting warmed up. So you get to that part where the golden key twist is over. Danielle has gone to Team Evil. It's so funny because in Big Brother 12, I hated Rachel. In Big Brother 13, I absolutely loved her. I was living through Rachel Riley through this season. And when Danielle turned on her, she was dead to me. It was Abby Maria all over again. She was dead to me. So you get the amazing television of Rachel and Danielle going at it. When Rachel's following Danielle around the house, I was like, you go, bitch, you get her. It was just great. I loved it on the feeds. And then at the end, when you get to the end, and she wins. It's not, she's not the villain of the story. She's the hero. She wins 4-3. She walks out the door. The confetti comes down. Brendan greets her, and they live happily ever after. And to anyone who says this wasn't a great season of Big Brother, go to hell, because I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And it was so fun watching Rachel out in front the whole time. She was never hiding in the background, and she got to the end on her competition wins basically alone, and I just love that. She was the Mike Holloway of Big Brother.
The Mike Holloway of Big Brother. There we have it.
Yes.
Okay, so Brent must be very high on Survivor Worlds Apart as well. Okay, well, clearly all of us put it at 15, so we don't feel the same way about this season. Alex,
sure.
So Brent just defended his high ranking of this. Alex, defend the low ranking of Big Brother 13.
Okay. Brent talks about having heroes and villains in a season. I think heroes and villains famously, I can't place the quote right now, but history is written by the winners. You know what I mean? I don't think Kalia would tell you that Rachel was the hero of Big Brother 13. I think there's plenty of cases to be made that the deck was stacked unbelievably in Rachel's favor from the get-go. I think for all the reasons that fans versus favorite seasons on Survivor end up overwhelmingly working out for the favorites, I think in addition, the fans were just, they brought their fists to a gunfight basically when they were playing against these favorites. Dick laid the groundwork for her to go the distance before he left. And then, I can't get over that Pandora's box that allows her to re-straddle the banana from week one, which, no one was ever going to beat her in that. And that saves her. That's, she's going home if she doesn't win that veto. And they just give her on a silver platter the veto that she's going to win. To me, if you want to talk about examples of production, fixing, not fixing a season, there's no more glaring example than Big Brother 13.
Taran, you agree with that?
Absolutely. And okay, so this is the point in the podcast where I should mention this is a subjective rating. I think in general, when you look at what seasons you like the best and which you don't like the best, it's all subjective. It's all about who you liked, what storylines you liked, if you liked the outcome, if you didn't. So, in everyday life, I would say, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I'm not going to say that anyone's wrong for liking certain things, but this is a podcast. I'm trying to be entertaining. So with that in mind, Brent is absolutely 100% wrong. He is.
I thought you were going to let me off the
hook. Oh, that was great, Taran.
What a weasel.
Yeah, you get on Big Brother 18 with those kinds of moves.
Yeah. So, we saw the duo stuff in season 9 and it worked out terribly, and they bring it back for season 13. Why do you do that? It makes no sense. Not only do they bring that back, but they bring in the twist where you have a couple of returning players versus a bunch of, just regular, normal players. And that's never a very good formula for a season to begin with. Nobody likes those seasons in general. Except for, there are some exceptions, I think. But in general, they tend to not work out well because the returning players, as Alex said, they have such a distinct advantage over the other players that it's not very interesting to watch. And in this case, the returning players had an advantage just mostly in the fact that they had numbers and not in the fact that they had good strategy. The strategy in this season was almost non-existent. Like we had Shelly.
I don't know, because we had Danielle.
She was
mixing that up. I think there was a little bit of strategy going on there, but
she was out. She was out pretty early, though. Apart from the fact that she was immune for a while, she got out as soon as she entered the game. She was out pretty early, so there wasn't a whole lot that we could see from her. And then we had Shelly, and she was great. But that was pretty much it. And then she kind of gets screwed over. And the end was just, oh man, this was just, and okay, Rachel is an entertaining player for a lot of people, and I understand that. And I think I talked to her on a podcast. She is a fantastic person. She's very nice. Brendan in particular has been a great friend to me. He's been very kind, and I love them both. I do not like Rachel's strategy playing Big Brother, and I do not like watching her play Big Brother because I enjoy the social game, the strategy, and she enjoys the competitions, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But competitions are not an effective way of winning the game.
Contraire,
I think she's very lucky to have won the game.
All right, Brent, how about it? Yes. I think that competitions are a completely valid way of winning the game. Like you look at Dan and Memphis at the end of Big Brother 10. That's all they're doing. They're winning competitions back and forth, and people don't know they're an alliance. Now, there is some strategy there because obviously they had a hidden alliance that Jerry didn't know about. But, the competitions were driving. Look, anything in Big Brother is driven by the competitions. I know Steve famously said in Big Brother 17 that if you have to win a competition, you're playing the game wrong. I don't necessarily feel that way. There's some times where you have to pull out a win. And we're talking about entertaining seasons. I'm not talking about the most strategic season. I'm not talking about the season that I just love the feeds the most. This was the most entertaining, one of the most entertaining seasons of Big Brother to me, simply because the girl who was the toad ended up as the princess at the end, and she did it without hiding in the background, except for that one time she was in the bushes. So, you know, yeah.
Wait, Dan and Memphis had a secret alliance I didn't know about?
Yes, Jerry. Yes, you're here.
He'll always be Judas to me.
God, that's
Hey, wow,
so good.
great to hear we have an appearance by Jerry McDonald. Oh my goodness. Wow, he's like in his 80s now. Jerry, I didn't know you knew how to use Blab.
Old dogs can learn new tricks, Jordan. It's a myth. Don't believe the hype.
All right, there we go. And
So-
this is hold on. Alex,
Okay, the
this
thing
is
about
the signal.
competitions,
Whenever I want to talk to you, I'm gonna do this to you. Okay, that's the signal.
Well played.
Oh man.
Okay. So the thing about
Yes.
competitions is that they're very
Yes.
random. A lot of competitions, they're crapshoots. And even if they're not crapshoots, you don't know what kind of competition it's going to be. You don't know if it's going to play to your strengths, and nobody is good at all competitions. So, you know, you can be the best person at competitions in the history of the game. If you get to an elimination veto, you're out. You're done. That's it. So it's not a reliable strategy in the sense that it relies on luck, and you cannot ensure your safety in the way that you can in a much more strategically sound way with a social game or a strategy like positioning, like Vanessa did. So when it comes down to like when people are looking at different aspects of people's game, I always see competitions. It's definitely useful to be moderately good at them because it means that you're able to win in situations where you're able to set yourself up. So like Dan and Memphis, they set themselves up where they were easily the best competitors in the final 5, final 6, definitely down to the final 3. So there's definitely a value in that. But in general, you just need to be competent at them, and then make sure you get people out that are way better than you at them, and that's pretty much it as far as competition goes. I don't think you need anything beyond that, and it's definitely not a reliable strategy to get to the end. The people that have
Hold on.
I'm just going to make a point that we're talking about what is the most entertaining. Like I know, like so I'm trying to like differentiate that. Like again, I agree with you, Taran. On balance, I agree with what you're saying. Okay, I don't discount anything that you're saying. But what I'm saying is that we were asked to evaluate the most entertaining seasons for us, and so for me. I responded really well to this season. It was just glorious television. It was total popcorn for me. You know, I loved every minute of it. I couldn't get enough, and I'd like my heart was in my chest when I saw that Portia won the Final Four veto. I thought she was going to evict Rachel, and then when I saw she wasn't going to do that, I was like, yes. Like it was just like I was along for the ride, and it kept me all the way to the end. So anyway.
Yeah, and that's where I'll go back to my disclaimer. Like, you know, people have every right to find what they find entertaining. Personally, I find strategy entertaining, and that's why I was explaining that. Like, as far as strategy goes, there really wasn't much to watch, and that's why for me it was really down the rankings. You know, and then you add in the fact that the Pandora's box twist, the returning player twist, just a lot of things kind of worked into the result of the season, and it's not fun to watch for me.
Poor Lawan in that returning players. It's interesting. We're just sitting, and Alex and I are just sitting back listening to this whole thing. Alex, I think you and I need to have a big old debate on the next round. But I agree with both of you, actually. I think that for me, I think that, competitions, yes, they are random and there's all this stuff, but this is a subjective ranking. And we're talking about the seasons we find the most entertaining. People who ball out and win a lot of competitions are really fun to watch. So I can see I agree with what Brent is saying as well from his perspective. I didn't find it that as entertaining because of, and it's down in the ranks for me because of the Pandora's box twist, putting them back into the pairs with, Rachel and Jordan getting saved by that. And I think I just didn't like the people that were on the season that were not new. I think other than Shelly, Dominic, was there anyone? It's just a bunch of recruits. Wasn't that great for me to watch? But I think if Evil Dick stuck around, I think this would have been an amazing season. And I think we could have had a potential, maybe a 14 on our hands here, seeing the vets go head to head. But for me personally, I think it's just, that's why it's down my ranks. And if Portia would have won, Brent, I think that, which she should have won. I think that this would be a different story. And this might even be lower for Alex, Taran, and I than 15. So,
I will gladly say that if Portia wins this season, I might even have it in last place. Like it's a lot of this is being decided by
Rachel.
What's the end, what's the story here? I can't do a Penner voice, but what's the story here?
Yeah, I can't do it either.
What's the end of the book when they live happily ever after? Who is that? And it's the person that I wanted to see win that season, who I felt deserved it, who I felt was out in front, who never ever shirked. She was always there taking the bullets. I love that about her. So, and it's so funny to me because I hated her in Big Brother 12. I mean, like, she was just awful. And then I watched her come back, and I'm like, I kind of like her. She's feisty, and I can't even believe that I like her. It was funny.
Yeah.
By the way,
no, absolutely.
Give me some props, people. I want some props.
Yeah, give Brent some props.
Yes,
give Brent some props.
I'm lagging behind.
There we go.
Thank
I'll
you.
give you some props too, Brent.
I will say again, like I completely understand that. I think the way I look at the game is very different than probably even most people look at the game. Even if people agree with me on 13, they probably disagree with me on a lot of other things. And so I absolutely, however you want to find the show entertaining is completely up to you. I'm being a devil's advocate for the sake of the podcast. I think it's more entertaining. Brent has every right to find it as entertaining, and I completely see where he's coming from. Personally.
No, absolutely. I'm glad. This is why I wanted to do this podcast, because I knew there would be some of these discussions, and it's interesting. So this is great. I love it. So good job by both of you guys. Alex and I are going to have to bring it for the next round here, hopefully.
I have a quick question
yes.
before we move on. Is there a less strategic final three than the final three of 13 with Rachel, Portia, and Adam?
You know what? For me, I don't know, and I'll let you guys get it. I think we know how Brent feels about this. But for me, I don't think Rachel is as bad strategically as you guys think. I think that at this point of her Big Brother career, Big Brother 12, yes. But 13, she had some better ideas. She had improved a little bit. So I don't know if this is the worst final three. I would argue that Big Brother 11 is 11, Big Brother 9. I mean, I don't think this is the worst strategically. I don't think it's the worst one ever. And Adam, I mean, as much as Adam pockets crap for being a terrible Big Brother player, you know what? Yes. Adam actually wasn't that bad. He got to the end. He knew what to do to go far in the game. Yeah, he didn't make big moves, but guess what? That doesn't make you win the game. Look at a lot of the people in this season, right?
He was Austin before Austin. He was the big guy that recognized the value of being pathetic. I really believe that. And it's true. It's true.
I would argue that this is probably the least strategic final three. I think Jordan is somebody who's going to consistently get to the end more often than Rachel will, and probably win more often than Rachel will, based on her social game alone, her likability, and her
but strategically, Taran, have you ever seen Jordan have like a strategy talk with anyone? There was a point in 13 when she was on the block and she was about to go home, and I think she had to campaign to Portia, and she was just like, well, I'm not going to campaign because I've never talked game with her. And whereas Rachel, Rachel was she did some things that weren't the smartest, but she was aggressive. She went for it. I think that strategically, maybe not socially, I think she's better than Jordan Lloyd.
I think it depends on how you define strategically. I think Jordan is naturally more strategic than Rachel probably could ever. Although Rachel, when I see her, analyze Big Brother, I think she has some great insights.
Yes, right.
I didn't see it in the house. Maybe she's learned. Maybe I just didn't see it in the house. So maybe if Rachel came back, she would be very good. But I think Jordan, in what we saw of Jordan, was naturally more strategic than Rachel was, just based on her personality. Her personality is very, very suited to the game, and I think that's why she did well twice.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of a stylistic preference. Jordan, her game is kind of like a lot of little baby steps, whereas Rachel takes these huge strides forward and then will take huge strides back as well. So I think it's just a huge difference in style.
By the way, I was actually stunned to see that you all three of you were in agreement that this was the third worst season of Big Brother. Like, I really thought there would be somebody who was on my side a little bit, like just a little bit. But when I looked at the rankings and saw that we all matched up until this spot where, season 13, and you guys had it third to last, and I have it, fourth from the top. It's just I was like, really? Like, I'm really that far out on the island? Like, wow. Like, but I defend my choice, and that's why I did my rankings before I looked at anybody else.
No, that's what we want.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we had you there to act as, the opposition.
This could have been pretty boring without Brent, in truth. So it's good to have the difference of opinion.
Huge. All right, we should probably move on, though.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I agree. Let's move on. Okay, so thank you, Taran, for let's we can talk about Big Brother 13 all day, but let's move on to the next one. So that was number 14, season 13. Well, we still got a long way to go. Yeah. Oh man, we're almost an hour into this thing.
Well, we won't talk that long about it. I got onto a rant there about 13. So
that was probably the most divisive season.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I have all day, and we could. I mean, if you guys don't mind, we could make this like an episode of the Dom and Colin podcast and go for like 4 hours.
Can I just say, everyone should listen to the Dom and Colin podcast. They are amazing.
Shout out to Dom and Colin. They're amazing. Check out their stuff. Those guys are great, and they do amazing work. And definitely check out what they're doing. If you're a Big Brother fan, you like these kinds of discussions with rankings and those sorts of things, check it out because it's phenomenal. That's Colin Stone and Dom Harvey. They're both great guys. Okay, let's go into this next one, guys. And we have a tie here. We have a tie. So there's two seasons. A tie. So we're gonna get into this. So we're gonna. What's that, Alex?
We should do a revote, yeah.
Is there a revote?
Yeah, revote. Well, actually,
we should vote between
what's going to happen here is, we're going to discuss this right now. We're going to get into a debate right now over these seasons, and it's going to be very good. So these seasons are tied for 12th. They had an average ranking of 12.0, and one of these seasons at the end of this is going to be at number 13, and one's going to take the 12th spot. So let's get into the first one. The first season is a very recent season, had a very excellent winner. It had a lot of memorable characters. We had some nerdy girls. We had some broy guys. We had some groundskeepers. We had some beast mode cowboys. We had a bomb squad. It's Big Brother 16, okay? So Big Brother 16 is the first one on the docket up for discussion, up for debate. The second season also had some memorable characters, but like season 16, didn't have a lot of memorable moments. No moments that really stand out to me. There's a few in there, but nothing off the top of my head, and I haven't seen this season in a while, so maybe that's kind of why. But this season was a good one as well. For nostalgic purposes, I had it a little higher than 16, and that is season 4 with the winner being June Song. Great season as well. So those seasons are up for debate. For season 16, Alex had it ranked 14, Brent had it 15, I had it 13, and Taran had it at 6. So that kind of skewed it up a little bit. 4. Okay, so now we're going to get into this again. So this will be good. Season 4, we were all pretty much on the same page. I had it at number 12. Brent had it at number 12. Or sorry, Alex had it at 12. Brent had it at 12. I had it at 11. And Taran had it at 14. So, Taran, I'll let you have the floor here first. You have season 16. One of the seasons that a lot of people say is one of the worst seasons ever. I think we're a little higher on it than maybe the consensus in general, Alex, Brent, and I. But you've got it at 6. Why do you have Big Brother 16 at 6 overall?
Yeah, this is probably my most polarizing season. And I will say, from this point on, after we get past those other 4, I love all of these seasons, and it's, take them or leave them. Other than like maybe the top 4, I love all of them. So I don't have a whole lot to say that's bad about season 4. But I did appreciate season 16 a lot, and I will say that the edited TV show, if I wasn't watching the feeds, I would probably say, it's probably one of the worst seasons, because up until when they finally start showing what Derek's actually doing in the house, it's a very boring season if you're only watching the TV show. When I was watching the feeds, I was glued to them. Derek and Cody would stay up every night and talk about what they were doing, what their plans were, and it was so exciting to watch them execute what they were doing the whole season, at least for me, because that's what I watched to see. And so when I think of season 16, I'm mostly thinking about the feeds and how entertaining it was for me to watch Derek do his work. And even starting from week 2, when Zach goes up on the block and he's going around to everyone, convincing them that keeping Zach is better for the game and that it's their idea, that they think so. I was like astounded. I loved watching him do his whole thing the whole season long. So that's why I liked it. And I don't particularly mind that it's predictable, because unpredictability for me, I could take it or leave it. I'm mostly here to watch people game and game hard. So if they game so hard that it becomes not very predictable, that's fine for me. If anything, it might be better for me. But I would say I would have liked to see Derek be challenged more. I think that would have been even more fun. Absolutely. But so that's why it's not in the top like 5. It would be higher if Derek had some opposition, if he had some bad luck, if he had to deal with a situation that was out of his control, that didn't go his way.
Interesting. Okay, Alex, tell Taran why he's crazy.
Well, I'm glad Taran just made that point, because I think the biggest issue for me is the complete and utter lack of adversity. I think you look at that cast, I could make the argument that all but 2 of the females had absolutely no clue what was going on in there, and the other 2 were just doomed by numbers. I think it's true with half the males as well. And Derek, not only was he prepared, I mean, he was built for the game pretty much. You basically threw a Big Brother robot in there with a bunch of children from my perspective. And, the strategy was phenomenal. But to me, it's like watching Boston Rob on Redemption Island.
I loved Redemption Island.
Yes.
I hate Redemption Island. And I think that speaks to the difference. If you're so into strategy that you don't care about entertainment, like you can just cut that out and not need to see, you can know how it's going to end in week 3 and still be okay with keeping on with that, then that's why you're going to like this season. But if you're someone that, I mean, I wanted to see, like, Donnie probably would have targeted Derek, and then a twist is introduced that, just snuffed out the tiniest little candle that had just begun to burn. You know what I mean? I mean, just no opposition. Frankie and Donnie, probably arguably the second and third best players in the house, both pretty much instructed to work with Derek. I think that really does make it that, and with him already having such an edge to begin with, I think that's really why 16 to me falls so flat. I knew where it was going from so early on.
Okay, Brent, what do you think about this? And is that why you had it like that, or are you just is certain characters like Frankie Grande, did that kind of sour you on the season itself?
Well, and by the way, it's telling me that I'm seeing audio only. So if you have any trouble hearing me, just let me know. But
no, we see you great. You're looking great.
Okay, sounds good. Certainly Frankie, it didn't fill me with joy. I mean, out of all of us, I think I had this ranked. I had this ranked in the. I know I had it ranked farther down than anybody else, because I had it ranked in the spot where everybody else ranked season 13. I had it ranked. 15. I had it ranked third to last. The problem for me goes back to heroes and villains. Everybody was on the same team. Everybody was on Derek's team. It was like Redemption Island all over again. Everyone's following their lambs to the slaughter. And I don't find that fun at all. I absolutely, that is the worst kind of reality television for me. Yes, I can give credit to Derek for being a maestro of the game. I will give him that. But if you're talking to me about entertainment, he was absolutely terrible in the diary room. I could not stand the television show. The women in the house were piss poor. Christine and Nicole didn't know how to get their head out of their ass. And they had this goddamn twist that they should have stopped at the first double eviction, which they didn't know enough to stop, which allowed him to continue his steamroll in the house.
Yeah.
I'm glad they learned their lesson this season, but that season, the twist absolutely snuffed out any possibility of any drama. And it was I started to believe at one point that from the middle of the game, the producers, they must want Derek to win. That's what they want. They want him to win, because they're not going to allow any unpredictability to infect any part of the game. They only allowed one head of household rather than 2 to be a part of the game when there was really nobody left to challenge him. And it was just I was so underwhelmed by it. And I couldn't, I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I think that the Battle of the Block is a great point. I think that is arguably one of the worst twists to be introduced to Big Brother in the history of the show. And that was hard to watch. The reset twist, that was so, I hated that. And yeah, I mean, it was just, there was, like you guys said, no opposition. So for me, that's why I just wasn't the biggest fan of the season. Now, there's certain characters on the season that I love to death, and that I love I love Christine. I love Devin is probably one of my favorite reality TV people ever. I love Devin so much, bro. I mean, the Bomb Squad and some of the Beast Mode Cowboy lines were hilarious. But yeah, and I think that, and you brought up a great point that it was just Derek steamrolling it, but Derek shouldn't even won. If Cody did not make the dumbest move in the history of Big Brother, Derek is not even the winner of that season. And then we look at things, I think we look at it even worse than we already have it ranked. And we probably are with Brent and putting it at 15. So that's my reasoning behind it. Now, we could go on this forever, but we got to figure out this tie. So season 4 is the other season we need to discuss. And Alex, I'll start it off with you. You kind of had it. So you had it at number 12. So what did you think about season 4? Do you think that is it just because the game was different back then? Was it kind of, because for me it was kind of slow? I think maybe is that sort of what was your mindset there?
I think it's that. It's a lack of very many very memorable, very big characters. I think, especially once you get to the end. I mean, certainly there's, Allison and June, I think, are great characters, but I mean, Robert was just so bland. And like, I mean, I watched the whole season. I still like don't know anything about this guy. You know what I mean? Like, and he's like he's like right there at the end. Like, there was a lot of that cast that are so hard to even recall right now. Like, and I think another part of it is that season 4 is a bit of a blind spot for me. I think it's been the longest since I've seen it, and I've only seen it once. So there could be some things I'm forgetting. And that's kind of, I think all of that combined is why I have it where I do.
Yeah, Taran, you had it at 14, so you were the lowest of all of us. Is there anything that really stands out in your mind about this season at all, season 4?
Well, like hearing Alex talk about it, I thought like I was trying to think up reasons to defend it, because I do like it, even though I've rated it so low. I love all these seasons of Big Brother. Because there aren't any good, we had Jack, and he was kind of the only person that you could really root for. Maybe Erica, but I mean, we saw when Erica is the person you're rooting for most that season, and you look at Big Brother 7, it's like, oh man, like something went wrong there, right? And I mean, obviously June is great, but I don't think she was the person people were rooting for at the time.
No.
And so and also it was the situation where it was a divided house, and it was the original people, the original 8 versus the 4 that came in, the X's. And that kind of made for a, whoever wins HOH is probably going to determine who goes home. There were a couple of mix-ups here and there. And watching June go back and forth was definitely entertaining. Watching Allison do her work, getting Nathan to use the veto on her was fantastic. So that's really good. I think Robert was entertaining in some. I think G was probably a little less entertaining because he had his moments though, like his moments where he takes away all the food from everyone. Yeah. He had some very selfish moments which work pretty well. And then we got Robert, who's just if he was on a season today, oh my God, he would be killed on the way out. He's had some terrible things about women.
Yeah.
But
oh man, good thing social media wasn't around back then. But yeah, G,
man.
I mean, that's hilarious. Bringing up G, oh man, G was so bland. Like that dude is just like the most average guy, and player wise too. Like, because G wasn't that bad of a player. Like I think he's like the most. And this is something that's been said by Colin Stone before. Is that G is like the replacement level player for Big. Like he's just like the most like average player there is G. Like he's just he's not like good, but he's not like that bad. So, and I guess says something about Big Brother players. There aren't very many good ones if G is like the replacement level one. And yeah.
I do want to say, even though Nathan using the veto on Allison was a great moment, as far as watching somebody do a really terrible mistake goes, it meant that we lost David, and I feel like he was one of the better characters that season, and it really would have benefited us to be able to see David go further. He was very goofy and fun, and he would have brought a level of like playfulness to that season, because it was a very kind of dark season for a lot of it. We had the Three Stooges. They tried to bring some fun, but they weren't very likable, so it wasn't very entertaining. So if David had stayed in, I think we'd be looking at a better season for sure.
And I think the season started. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brent.
No, it's okay. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm kind of going in and out a little bit.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. First of all, the problem that I had with this season, although I think of all of us, I probably had it ranked higher, was that there were who are you rooting for? You know, like there were no heroes to the story. I agree with Taran. By the way, from pure eye candy perspective, David was wonderful, and he was. When Taran talks about him being playful in the house, the boy was playful. Let me tell you,
yeah.
He's one of the people. Yes, he was the first guy to have sex in the Big Brother house. So David was fun. He was an Army Ranger, somebody I liked watching on the show for obvious reasons, and I loved Allison because she was just a complete bitch. But besides that, like I didn't really like much about the season. So, but of the two of them, give me Big Brother 4 any day, and I will go to Rocks.
Yeah, I'm going to Rocks too. I think I actually had Big Brother 4 the highest. I had it at 11. Brent and Alex, you had it at 12. Taran had it at 14. Yeah, and I think like there aren't a ton of memorable moments here, and again, there's a lack of somebody to really root for. But the whole X's dynamic, the X factor, how good of a twist is that? If we had that now, could you imagine how good a season would be if they went out and they got all these people and they found their X's and they put, like, for me, that was my worst nightmare going into the Canada house, was thinking, oh my, like, could my ex-girlfriend be here? And no, that didn't happen, but I would lose my mind. You already lose your mind enough going in there, but if you have to deal with that on top of it, it's crazy. So I like that dynamic. I just think that the characters were probably a little bit wrong for it. And I still think that Scott getting expelled after the first week when David and Amanda were talking, I think like that is amazing. And if you want to find out why he got to, like, the reason why he lost his mind, you can go get into that. It involves some STDs and those sorts of things. So it's great. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going Big Brother 4. So Brent and I both vote 4. Alex, are we going to go to Rocks here? Do you want to vote 16 over 4, or are you going to go? Are you going to go with 4? Are you going to jump over to the dark side?
I can't even remember which I had higher now. To be honest with you, I think I had.
According to your rankings, you had 4 at 12, and you had 16 at 14.
Yeah. That's what I figured. Yeah, I think Taran's on an island with this one.
I completely understand why, and I all of your points are completely valid. The Battle of the Block was terrible. The reset was awful, and I really wanted to see Derek challenge. I hope we see him back so we can see him challenged. I know that this is a very controversial opinion. Please don't hate me for it. It's just the way I view the game.
By the way, I just want to ask Taran really quick. I saw him make a face when Jordan said that Cody should have made the move and evicted Derek at 3.
No.
I don't understand why do you think you're the strategy guy? Why do you think he should not have done that?
No, he absolutely should not have done that. It's just when he said it was the worst, like the dumbest move ever. I don't necessarily agree that it's the dumbest move ever. I've had this discussion before. That's why
it's the dumbest move ever, dude. He cost himself $450,000 with one decision. How is that not the dumbest move?
But that's
Marcel.
so
yes, I made a way worse move on paper in Big Brother Canada. Marcellus made a worse move in Big Brother.
I don't think he made a worse move,
but it didn't cost him $450,000.
I think it really depends on how you define worst decision. I don't necessarily
losing the game,
but
automatic win, Aaron.
Right. But you're saying he lost the automatic win to a situation where, you know, he there's some chance that he can beat Derek, even if, you know, the jury can always go different ways.
No way. He had no chance against Derek.
Whereas someone like Luan, who asks to be evicted, he has no chance of winning the game after.
True. But I mean, was Luan going to win the game anyway? No, I don't think so. So I mean, I guess it's depending. It's how you define what the worst move is. But to me, and I think Brent is on the same page, is if you're. For me, it's how close are you to the end, and what does this move cost you the game? Did that move cost Luan the game? Well, yeah, because he got evicted, but Luan wasn't that close to winning. Luan wouldn't have won that season anyway. Cody had the game won. He had the game won. It was over. It was done. And this is another conversation for another day, and we'll do a podcast about this because now I know how interesting this will be.
I could get into it a lot in more detail, but I don't think people want to hear it right now. I think Cody is underrated as a player. I think
that's fair.
Picking Derek was like the weakness that Derek instilled into Cody, and other than that, he was a very good player. People underrate him. He was really working with Derek the whole season long. He's just obviously standing next to Derek, he looks, you know, much worse. But yeah, we should move on.
All right, let's okay, so consensus, season 16 is number 13 in the ranks, season 4 is number 12 in the ranks. Okay, on to number 11, and guess what? Surprise, surprise, it's another tie. Okay, here we go. Here's another tie. So we've got 2 more seasons. These seasons had a consensus rank of 11, so similar problem we had the last time. The first season was dominated by one alliance the whole way through. Had some good characters, had some returning players, but was a little bit predictable, and that was, I think, kind of the problem for our ranking for Big Brother 16, and that is season 12. Season 12 is the first of these seasons. Season 12, Alex, you had it at 11, Brent had it at 11, I had it at 12, and Taran had it at 10. So that is the first season up for debate. The second season up for debate is, again, very close to the one we just talked about, an older season. We had an interesting final 3 and some interesting twists, and that was season 5, Project DNA. That is the number that was tied with season 12, according to our ranks here. Alex had it at 9, Brent had it at 14, I had it at 9, and Taran had it at 12. So, Alex, let's start with you. You were the highest on season 5 with me. Why did you have season 5 higher than season 12?
I think 5 for me has everything that 4 is lacking. It has big characters. It has interesting alliances. It has Nokomis's 5-finger plan, which ultimately becomes the backdoor and is now a staple of the game. There's a lot going on in 5 that I think just there weren't this many people in a house thinking this strategically yet. There was Will in 2 and, Nicole. And, in 3, you had a few players. In 4, you had a few players. I think in 5, you could make the case that half the house, easy, is really thinking about this game and how to win it. I think the Project DNA twist is insane. How the hell did they find a half-brother and half-sister who had never met, who knew nothing about each other? And just, what a mind F. You know what I mean? Like, that's unbelievable. If they could do something like that again, I'd be all in on that. That would be amazing. Yeah. I think there's a lot to like.
Now, Brent, you had it at 14, so you were the lowest on 5. Why the lower ranking of season 5?
I'm trying to remember how I felt at the time, and I really felt like the air went out of this season after the twin twist was revealed. It was such great television. I have gone back on YouTube and watched the twin twist reveal like probably at least 20 times. Like, it's great television watching the house guests, and it's like paranoia. It's like, Cowboy saying it's Holly, and it's just hilarious. But after that, I just feel like it was just, it felt itchy to me. It felt ugly to me. I didn't like the way that the house behaved after that. The twins and Cowboy got into a little bit of a Bible thumping Jesus thing, which I didn't really care for. Then they went after the gay guy because of that, because she dreamt about it. It just left a really bad taste in my mouth. And then the final 2 of Drew and Cowboy, what more can I say? He's Cowboy. And, Drew, I'll give Drew credit for making the move that he needed to make to win the game in evicting Diane at 3. But again, I didn't even know who to root for with like 7 people left in the game. Where are the heroes? It's like Heroes Reborn. Where are the heroes? They're gone. They're not here anymore.
Brent, you're forgetting Marvin Latimer, my friend. Come on, Marvin. Yeah. He's a hero.
Yes, bring him back. Let's hear more F-bombs.
I was going to say, I think that's the biggest difference between, the unlikable people calling themselves the good people in 5 and doing it in 9, is that you've got Marvin there just ragging on them, which is much more entertaining. You know what I mean?
So funny. So funny. I love it. Taran, what about you? What do you think about 5, and why do you have 5 lower than season 12?
Right, I think Brent hit it perfectly. I thought season 5 was doing really well right up until the twin twist was revealed and Jace goes home. The 4 horsemen and Jace in particular were very polarizing but very entertaining, and I loved that Jace was not only entertaining, but he thought about the game strategically, even if he wasn't necessarily good at it.
Yes.
They brought a lot of they brought a lot of energy to the season, and when they left, it just completely sapped out. And from there until final 5 when they do the little that nice little veto trick to get out what's her name, Karen.
Karen. Yeah.
Yes.
At that point, it kind of picks up a little again because, Karen goes out. Then we've got Cowboy evicting Nokomis, and then, Drew cutting Diane right at the end.
That is crazy. Like, we've never seen that. A brother evict a sister, and then a guy evict his showmance. Like,
yeah. So it does pick back up, I think, but that point in the middle is just, it really slows it down. And then being an older season in general, they didn't edit it quite as energetically as they do now. Not saying it's better now necessarily. I like the way that they did the DRs back then. But as a whole, it kind of hurts the season, I think, to be edited the way that it is. So yeah, that's season 5. And then I have season 12 above that. So
yes.
I love season 12, and I love season 5 too, to be that. But I love season 12. A lot of people found it really boring at the time, especially feedsters. Season 12 probably has one of the more boring season of feeds, because the brigade was so dominant. They just shut everything down. I mean, we do have the Brendan and Rachel fights with Reagan and stuff. That was definitely, something that people found interesting. But after Rachel goes home, it's just dead. The brigade had it locked down. They did not in the same way that Derek did. They didn't need to do any kind of strategy for the most part. They just hung out with people and played pool all day. So as far as feeds went, yeah, definitely very, very boring. But I feel like the show, opposed to season 16, the edited show is actually really good. They really, between the fights with Rachel and then Brittany and the DR, and Reagan was fun, and Matt was really fun. It was an edited show that was really put together well, and I feel like it's really stood the test of time. And people weren't high on it when it came out, but since then, it's kind of been like, yeah, you know what? Season 12 is really fun when we go back and rewatch the show without having to watch the feeds. So, and then on top of that, Hayden, fantastic player. Loved watching him play, even though if he's a little boring. Watching Matt was great. I love Matt. Enzo too, fun to watch, pretty good at the game. So as a whole, I like season 12 a lot, a little bit more than season 5 though.
Alex, in your ranking, did the saboteur twist failing as epically as it did that have something to do with your lower ranking of this compared to season 5?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I thought this was a twist that, could have been interesting potentially. And just completely flamed out. Beyond that, I think Annie could have been one of the players to actually catch on to the brigade if she'd been allowed to play her own game. So I think this is another case of, a lot of this house, what are they doing there? Why is Deputy Sheriff Kathy in there? There's just people that just, again, it's the brigade dominated, and you have to, appreciate what they did. But at the same time, you have to kind of, to me, look at the body of work. And not only is that a much smaller house than people are playing against now, where they're facing 16 or 17 people. I believe that season was 13? It was a really small season.
Yeah.
And to me, if you can lock down 4 and then quickly, make it 8, they were good from week 1 on. And it really was a situation where I love Enzo. I love a lot of the characters, but then on the other side, there was just a lot of just no opposition again. And I think, this is really the point where, for me, we're talking about seasons that even if I'm ranking them low, they're still better than anything else on television for me. So we're getting to the point. We're getting to the point now where we're splitting hairs. Well, that's not on my TV. That's on my computer.
Yeah.
Semantics.
No, but yeah, it's true. No, it's like Rob Cesternino once said this about Survivor. I mean, it's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's still good.
Yeah.
And now, that was early on. Now we're moving up. Like, they're all good from here on out. Brent, were there any really good memorable moments that you thought about from this season at all, from season 12? Because for me, in my head, I have the Reagan and Rachel fight when she comes back in the house. I have the diamond veto when Matt used it and got rid of Kathy, which we don't need to get into. And then also, the for whatever reason, the moment it was week 1, it was like night 1 when the saboteur comes into the house and then the lights go down. and then Brendan goes to brush his teeth, and then everyone's like, and he says in the diary room, he's like, yeah, I just thought we were supposed to go to bed because the lights were out, and then everyone thought Brendan was the saboteur. I love that moment so much. But anyway, was there anything that you thought was memorable really from this season or no? Because, I mean, to me, there was good characters, but not so many great moments.
Well, I mean, this had the famous floaters grab a life vest, you know, when Rachel and Brendan were up against the odds, and somehow, some way, this goes back to, you know, me and my love of Big Brother 13, somehow this girl gets through a competition where she should have been out. It's the knockout competition where they're constantly picking her. You have to go back up. You have to go back up. You have to go back up. And she wins against all odds. And her and Brendan are safe for another week. I thought, and she, you know, a better player, this is what Taran can't stand, a better player, a more strategic player would have been quiet, would have thanked everybody, would, you know, like try to make alliances with people. But no, this bitch is like, floaters grab a life vest.
Oh, and we.
Oh, great, fine.
There we go. Nope, now you're good. Now
okay.
You're good. As soon as you say, oh, great, it works.
I was yelling too much. I just I love that this season had some good moments. I had it ranked higher than 5, and you know, the other thing was we didn't know who was going to win. You know, like, yes, the brigade was dominating, but of the 3 of them, I didn't know who was going to win. Whereas in 16, for instance, I knew Derek was going to win from, like, you know, final 7 on. So I thought it could be Enzo. I thought it could be Lane. I thought it could be Hayden, and I was intrigued by that. So, and I was still holding out hope that maybe Brittany could pull it off. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was too. Okay, so let's vote then, guys. Let's do it. Let's see if we're gonna go to rocks. So, see how you want to vote. I'm gonna go with season 5 as that deserves to be in 10th. Taran, let's toss it to you. What are you gonna put in 10th?
Wait, which one? Which one's higher?
Higher. Which is higher? Which wins? 5 or 12?
12 wins for me.
Okay, Alex?
Yep. 12 wins for me.
Okay, so and Brent says 12. Okay, we're going to rocks, guys. We're going to have to go to rocks. This is amazing.
Should we go to the chat room?
Yeah, so let's...
I don't have rocks, but I have Mucinex.
Okay. Okay. All right, chat room, 1st to 10. Actually, no, I don't know if that many people are watching. 1st to 10 wins. Okay, here we go. Let's go. And we're watching this unfold. So far, we have 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12,
Lots
12.
of 12s.
There's a lot of 12s. Some guys doing 5.
All right. Let's not cheat.
12 wins. 12 wins. There we go. 4-7 for all those 5s. But
12 seems to be the consensus.
I appreciate the strategy.
Yeah, so here we go. So season 5 is going to be in 11th, and season 12 is going to come in 10th. Now, there's no more ties the rest of the way, so we don't need to worry about these debates anymore. But I just found that interesting that those were both back-to-back. Okay, number 9 in the ranks is a season that a lot of people have said is the worst season in the history of Big Brother. I do not feel this way at all. Clearly, the group of us do not feel this way because we have it at number 9 overall. There was a lot of controversy over this season. There were a lot of interesting characters. There were a lot of interesting moments. And it ended up having a great winner, one of the better winners in the history of this show, in Andy Herron, and that is season 15. Season 15 comes in at number 9. So Alex had it at 7, Brent had it at 8, I had it at 10, and Taran had it at 11. So, Taran, you had this at 11. Was there any thought of maybe pushing this a little bit higher, or do you think that maybe we're a little bit high putting this at 9?
There was thought of putting it higher. And again, I love this season, probably a lot more than most people do. I think the thing that kills it for me is the first half to 2/3 of the season, I didn't really care for. I hated the MVP twist. I liked Spencer. I liked McCrae. I liked Andy. But just it was the Helen and Amanda show for a while, and they're not particularly great players of Big Brother, and just watching them run the show wasn't very interesting. And obviously all the other stuff that was happening with the racism and the nastiness from the fans, ratting people out and trying to get people fired and stuff like that. It was just nasty all around. However, once we get to Judd re-entering the game, from that point on, it's phenomenal. I love this season. Andy, with the double eviction, getting Amanda out and then convincing McCrae that it wasn't him and that he should get out Alyssa. Like, oh my God, that's like one of the best moments in Big Brother history, at least in my book. And then from there, Andy kind of just runs the table, which is fun to watch for me. And I think he's a fantastic winner. I wish that we had seen more of him in the edited show, and this isn't his fault, but I wish that we had seen more of him prior to that moment. He was definitely on the feeds, but not necessarily in an entertaining way, and not in a way that we really saw what he was doing. Again, not necessarily knocking him as a player, but as far as entertainment value goes, that kind of hurt it for me. But again, I love the season mostly for the ending of it. The beginning, it just didn't really work for me. So for a long time, this season was like, this season kind of feels like a bust. But then right at the end, it kicked into high gear, and I was like, all right.
Alex, did the MVP twist factor into this season at all for you? And you think this would have been higher or lower without it?
It factored in, but I would put it to you guys that I think the problem is not the MVP twist. I think unlike the BOB, which is a completely unsalvageable twist, the MVP twist could work in theory if there's no Alyssa Riley or Frankie Grande or someone who's going to lock down the vote already in the house. This is the kind of twist that actually could be interesting if it was put in a season where everyone starts on a level playing field. Unfortunately, that's not what we got, and so it ended up being kind of ridiculous. But for me, I mean, this was a really good season in terms of gameplay. I think a lot of people for years before the season were clamoring for female strategists. And not only did we get Amanda, but we also got Helen. And I think both were very, very, cerebral about the game in ways that we had been looking for a few seasons from female players. I think you had a lot of people cast who really were, trying to play, at least in some way. And, for me, I think a large part of this season really just was hurt by, a few comments that were made in seriousness by a few kind of like somewhat ignorant or misinformed individuals, or just people who weren't mature enough to know what they were saying and the weight of their comments. And then unfortunately, people like Andy and Spencer, who, if you had watched the feeds from the beginning, these are people with a Comedy Central sense of humor. I mean, they were cast to be raunchy. But then the problem became, once these serious comments were taken at face value, the season just began to snowball. No one was allowed to joke anymore. We knew it. They didn't know it, that a switch had been flipped and the jokes were no longer okay. And I think that really was the fundamental problem of this season. I think if you can get past the comments and the insensitiveness and the flipping Candace's mattress and all this kinds of stuff, then there's a lot to like here in terms of the cast. I mean, I enjoyed Jeremy. I mean, this is a dude.
Jeremy was great.
Grab your meat. I'm coming to eat. I mean, I love this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, we need more characters like this.
The J-Mac that sucks.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to like here. I just think it's a shame that it was tainted by things that are really just kind of more memorable than the season itself.
Yeah, and I think that it's a really interesting thing you bring up there, Alex, and I think that that's a big reason why people aren't super high on 15, which is a shame because, and we were just talking about this with Big Brother 5, Big Brother 4, some of the comments the guys are making. If those seasons were on during the social media era, I think it would be a lot different. If this was a season that aired 10 years ago, I think that Big Brother 15 might be remembered. It probably would be even higher than, we would probably place it higher than we have it right now on our list. I think that it would be a lot more well received because we never would have seen these comments. I mean, yes, it would have been on the feeds, but there was no social media. There would be no social media backlash. There wouldn't be people calling for these people to get fired from their jobs and all these crazy things like that.
There'd be no super cut of, all the worst moments from each player without any context.
Right.
Exactly.
I just want to say really quickly, and again, give me the cutoff if something's happening, but I was not particularly offended at all by the perceived homophobic comments that were said in the house. I really thought a lot of those were colored by the previous racist comments that were said in the house. And, I think Aaron at one point said, no one's going to listen to that little queer. And she loved Andy at that point, but she was not right. I really think you have to look at what's in people's heart. And I always felt like, and I won't talk about any specific comment in general, but specifically, but I will speak more of it in a general sense that I felt like a few of the comments were more tame than maybe they were made out to be because of some of the previous comments that were said or some things that were done in the house. I will say on an entertainment level, the Helen and Amanda show was pretty freaking entertaining to watch. I mean, I loved seeing those two bitches go back and forth. And then Alyssa, when she, hung on forever in that baseball competition and won. And then, she was...
That was amazing, by the way.
And then all of a sudden, Amanda's chip comes out of the bag and she wins from McRae and totally derails that whole plan. I mean, it was just... to me, it was fun television. I had it ranked... number 8 on my list, so I had it ranked higher than most of us. I think except for Jordan.
Alex had it 7. Alex had it 7.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I really like season 15, and I didn't really mind the MVP twist, especially once they realized it wasn't working after 3 weeks. They gave it to America, and that gave us a lot more of unpredictability in what was happening.
That was such amazing television. Amanda going, people saying, "What if America's MVP?" And Amanda's like, "No, America's not MVP." So good. Oh my gosh, yeah. And that brings back memories of listening to RHAPpy and Brian Lynch doing the Amanda impression. I think that was amazing. Shout out to my boy at Lynch MGM, Brian Lynch. Hope he's doing well.
Hey, Brian.
Oh man, yeah, I agree with you guys. I think that 15's a good season. I think that it's unfortunate that we have people out there saying, former alumni of the show, other people saying, "Oh, it's the worst season ever. It sucks." No, it doesn't. Look at it objectively. It's a good season. There's lots of ups and downs.
I mean, I can understand why people would have a negative view of it because of all the stuff that went down. It might make it hard to enjoy for some people. I think if you are a fan of the game and you like strategy, it's a good season to watch for that, especially the end. But obviously, different people find different things entertaining, as we've said.
Entertaining,
and
yeah.
So,
I don't know.
If that puts you off to it, I don't blame you for it, but I don't agree with it.
But there's been so many, season 9, although it's hated, there were so many comments from those feeds that never made the show. Some of the, like Maddie dropping N-bombs and stuff like that. And then there is, in Big Brother 13, when infamously Big Jeff makes the Dumbledore comments. There's been a lot of really bad stuff that has been said on these live feeds before, especially in these older seasons, that it never got really brought up in the TV show. 15 was the first time that it got brought up. And if it didn't get brought up, if they kind of just tried to push it on the rug, and they couldn't because of social media, but I think it would have been a different story. So that's just my 2 cents on it. But let's move on to the next one. Big Brother 15 comes in 9th place. In 8th place, all right, this is a good one. This is a good season. Brent, okay, let's see. We were pretty much all on the same page with this one. Alex had this season at number 8. I had it at number 8. Brent had it at number, hold on. Brent had it at 7. Yes, Brent had it at 7. And Taran had it at 9. So average ranking of 8. So this is perfect. This is the 8th rated season consensusly amongst all of us. And that is a season in which there were lots of highs and lows. There was some twists that didn't really work out so much, but ultimately it figured itself out. It sorted itself out. There were some twists that worked well. And there was a great cast. And I think that is the foundation you need for a really good season. And that is the great season 17, the one we just saw on TV. So there we go. Season 17 comes in at number 8. Brent, you're clapping. You like the rank.
I think it's fair. It's really hard to rank something that's this recent. But, again, I think that the story had a great ending. I liked seeing Vanessa get her comeuppance at the end. I know there may be people out there who disagree with me on that. But I like seeing her get it in the end. I absolutely hated her vote at the final. I was going to say final tribal council, but at the final jury, I just thought she was just completely bitter, and I love the fact that she's bitter and she can't admit it. But the season overall it was so fun to watch. It was sort of mind blowing watching some of the moves that were made this season. But they were entertaining, but you're pulling your hair out going, I can't believe they're going to evict Meg over Julia, who has a twin and who has a boyfriend in the house. But it all made sense, and there I was on the podcast. I was on the podcast defending it. I couldn't even believe it, but I was defending it. And it was just it was fun watching Vanessa run the season. A little bit infuriating that she wouldn't own it. And I also agree with what Dan said on the podcast, which was that she had no joy in her game. And that pulled it down the list a little bit for me. But beyond that, I think it's good right where we have it in the 8th spot. All
right. We'll throw it to Dan's man, Taz. What did you Do you think that if this season would be ranked higher for you if Vanessa would have won, or do you think that either way with Steve winning, it's kind of like this is where it would have been no matter what?
I've always said I think Steve is the second best player that season, so it's not rated too much lower because he won. I think it'd probably be in the same place if Vanessa won, but I might regard it a little bit higher. I think the things that make the season great are the cast. Had a great cast, very chaotic in the beginning. And Vanessa was a great player. Johnny Mac, very entertaining. James, very entertaining. I think the things that hurt this, Audrey too, very much, and Jason, obviously, all these people, so good. The cast is great. I think the things that hurt this season the most are the Battle of the Block in the beginning. Obviously shouldn't have been there. Second, the Scamper Squad / Sixth Sense winning all but like 2 or 3 of the HOHs really just kind of, if we had seen some more opposition as far as competitions and how they played out, I think it would have been a more entertaining season for sure. And then also Vanessa's gameplay, she works mostly on positioning. And so a lot of the work she did was in week 2, and then she just kind of played that out for the rest of the game. So we didn't get to see her doing consistent work throughout the season. She was challenged a couple of times, and we got to see her work her way out of there. But for the most part, it was just the way that she had positioned herself in the past. So there wasn't a whole lot to watch throughout the season.
Alex, do you agree with that? And do you think that the getting rid of the BB takeover was the best thing that ever could have happened for season 17?
Absolutely. And, if they hadn't had the Battle of the Block, I agree with everything Taran said. I mean, that's just a twist that I think, if we didn't know before, which I think some of us kind of had a pretty good idea, but certainly we know now, this is not this is not something you can salvage, scrap this thing. This is no good. I think this is a season that's kind of tough to reconcile, and that's probably why it ends up like pretty much in the exact middle of my rankings, because you have, to me, one of the best casts from top to bottom. I totally disagree with Les Moonves. I think the problem was not the cast. The problem is that the people you wanted to go to the end didn't go to the end. And I think the other side is reconciling that with almost like a brigade-like dominance from the Scamper Squad, that at times, you were looking for another side of the house to take shape and emerge with a James or Meg or Jackie. And, the couple times they got power, they just mishandled it so badly that there was no recovery from that. And it did set up somewhat of a predictable finish. So that's why I think I have it right where I do. It's, still amazing television and one of, the first things I would ever watch. But, there's just some seasons that I think from start to finish just really never drop the ball. And I don't know that this is quite on that par.
By the way, can we... Oh, go ahead, Jordan. Go ahead. No. Well, I was going to... I was going to just say, since we've never really had a chance to digest this since she's had the exit interviews, I just wanted to take like 30 seconds, and I'm going to just take Vanessa to task for her vote, because I saw some people in the chat saying something about why was her vote bitter, and we've never really had a chance to talk about it. And I feel like people want to hear us talk about it.
Yeah, get into it. Let's go.
Let's talk about it. Her vote was bitter, people, and I don't care. I'm not. Steve did not make her bitter. She's a bitter bitch, and this is the reason why. Because she should have voted for Steve to win. If you don't know that after listening to those speeches, then I can't help you. I don't care that she had a better relationship with Liz.
Liz's speech was so good. It was so good, Brent. Liz, she fought to get to the end.
She had a twin. She fought. She had a twin. That's what it was. Steve clearly laid out his strategy from start to finish. He had empathy in his speech. He got to know people. Liz was just holed up with Austin and her twin sister the entire time. It was just, I couldn't believe. And then listening to Vanessa the next day defend that vote by saying she had a deal with Liz when she had a deal with Steve as well. And she said, so what else did she say, Taran? Take it from here.
She said, well, the deal thing, whatever, like deal.
Most improved player. Yeah. She was grading on a curve.
Yeah, exactly. So she said that based on her expectations of how Steve should have played the game, because he knew the game so well and she knows that he's very intelligent, he just he didn't meet those expectations, or he just barely met them. And whereas Liz came into the game knowing next to nothing and obviously not as intelligent as Steve, so she said, oh, Liz exceeded my expectations, therefore I gave Liz my vote. And I found this to be incredibly, backwards logic, because according to her own logic, for me at least, if she's up against Liz in the final two, Liz exceeded expectations, and Vanessa, if anything, just barely met them, because Vanessa was easily the most highly regarded person coming into the game. So if she's thinking, okay, this is how people should vote, then she loses the game to Liz. So,
Victoria is the greatest player ever. Yeah,
right. I know. I just want to say that this is the part that, I love Rob, and he was so nice to them, because he wouldn't really challenge her on that. I wanted so badly to be a part of that conversation and say, because she keeps talking about the deal that she had with Liz, and I'm like, but you had a deal with Steve too. Like you made a deal with Steve way back in week 2 or whatever. Like the Students of Sound. And then you're grading on a curve? Is that what they're asking you to do? I thought they were asking you to give the best player. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I just, if she ever comes back on a podcast, I hope that I'm in the chat room.
I hope you are too.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I'm done with that. Sorry.
Yeah,
I had to get that out.
Maybe Rob will have a blab and Vanessa will be on that blab. And then you can hop on the blab and, talk a little bit, and then convince Vanessa to never podcast again, like Spencer Pratt. It'll be great.
Pretend you're not associated with RHAPpy.
Right? If you've ever noticed in my Twitter, unlike the two of you, I do not have RHAP in my Twitter handle. That's because I say things that are a little off color sometimes, and I don't want my stink to get onto Rob.
Very courteous of you. Courteous.
Yes, right.
Courteous, I should say.
Okay.
No, that's no, but I'm with you. I think that, and I said this last week, that Taran and I were on This Week in RHAP with Rob last Saturday, and we were talking about that, and I just think that, Vanessa, just own it. It's fine if you're bitter. I don't mind, but just admit it, because we're emotional beings. She's an emotional person. We're all emotional people. If you get screwed in that situation, no one's going to blame you for voting the wrong way. I know people were upset about it, but if you just say, hey, you know what? I was bitter about it. I was upset, and that's why I didn't understand. I think she's going to regret the fact that she didn't own up to it, because I would have a lot more respect for her, and so would I think the rest of us, if she would have just said, hey, you know what? Yeah, I was just choked because I was 5 minutes away from $500,000 and I got nothing. I got the same amount of money as Shelly, and that kind of sucks. So considering she worked 24/7 for 98 days, but let's move on. Season 17 is number 8. We've discussed that one. We'll go on to the next one, number 7 in the ranks. And this one is one of my favorite seasons of all time. And this is where it's going to get hard, because with Big Brother, there are so many seasons that are so good. And Alex alluded to that earlier, where just right off the top, there are some seasons that are just great, and they just the whole way through, they're just outstanding. And in my opinion, this is one of those seasons. Has an excellent cast. Almost everybody is a memorable character on this season. And the winner, it's a very solid winner, strong winner, one of my favorites, and I think is very underrated. But there was a consensus that the person who finished in second should have won this season, and that is season 3, with the winner being Lisa Donahue and the second place finisher being Daniel Reyes, who has been called the greatest player to never win. I had this season at number 4. Taran had it at number 5. Brent had it at number 9, and Alex had it at number 10. Alex, why'd you have this one at 10? Because for me, I think I have it, and I'll be honest, it was for nostalgic purposes is a lot of it, but I just think Big Brother 3 is so good all around. So why the 10th rank spot here for season 3?
Well, first, I think you make a good point in that the nostalgia factor doesn't exist for me. When I first watched 3, I was going back. And so, and I was beginning to become accustomed to Big Brother in HD. So I think there's an element of that for me. And I'm not going to, deny that I think maybe 3 and 4 probably get slightly unfair treatment from me, because unlike 5, which I've gone back to like 3 times, I've only seen those all the way through once. So there's definitely, I'm leaving myself room to negotiate with 3. That being said, I disagree on that. I think there are definitely some forgettable people on 3. Obviously, if I saw it again, maybe I would change my opinion on that. I think it's similar in some ways to 17, in that the best player finishes, doesn't win, gets kind of snuffed right at the end. To me, the difference and why I have it below a 17 is a returning juror who really, really kind of disrupts the end game. Amy coming back where she does, and just kind of, to me, is like another factor that really just, I don't know. I mean, I think she really influenced the game going forward in ways that, like, she's just a vote, but it really changed everything. And I really had a hard time with that. There's other elements of it. The veto is just completely not fleshed out. They really haven't figured out how to use it properly.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being a non-factor until it's just mishandled. I mean, horribly. That's the only thing you can do with the veto, basically, is misplay it. So yeah, to me, it's just, it suffers a little bit from just kind of like them, almost like a Big Brother 1, where they had a new idea. It was going to be great, but they just hadn't quite fleshed it out yet.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think, and for those of you that don't know, the rules of the power veto back then were everybody plays in the power veto competition. And also, if you win the power veto, you can use it on someone else, but you cannot use it on yourself. Now, later in the game, there was a twist called the golden power of veto, in which you could use it on yourself. And famously, Marcellus won that and chose not to use it on himself or Amy, and he got blindsided as a result. And that's why they call him the Jordan Parhar of Big Brother USA, or they call me the Marcellus of Big Brother Canada, whatever. So I think, that's a really good point. Amy coming back didn't irk me as much because back then they didn't have a jury. It wasn't a jury system. Everybody goes home when they get voted out. Although I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys remember, I think the people might have been sequestered, the people who could have come back
they were
to the
sequestered.
game, right? They were sequestered. So, and it wasn't that late, right? It was like maybe
That's
8?
4. Well, no, they after 4 evictions, they brought somebody back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would have been 7, I guess, right? So
I think I remembered it being at like way later. So maybe
No.
Well,
It was after 4 evictions. After 4 evictions,
Well,
Eric had just
remember-
been evicted, and he's outside waiting. Yeah.
Yes, and remember too, Alex, if you look at those seasons, right, there's not as many people. So coming back after 4 evictions then is a lot deeper in the game than coming after 4 evictions now. So I guess maybe that is kind of where your mindset was a little bit there. But Taran, what do you think about season 3?
I love season 3. It's easily one of my top seasons. I think talking about final threes, I think this is the strongest final 3 in the history of Big Brother. Absolutely. Jason, I think Jason was the best player that season, which is kind of controversial, but I think he would have won the game, whereas Danielle wouldn't have won the game, even probably with a sequestered jury, which she says herself.
No, you're right. I agree. And I think that's the one biggest flaw in Danielle's game, is that she wanted to go to the end or she was in a situation where she had to go to the end with Jason, and I don't think she would have beat Jason, because how do you not vote for that dude?
I will say, I think the game was, Big Brother 3 was a very different game. They weren't, like, the thought of lying and tricking each other was kind of a foreign concept, and they felt cheated because they purposely weren't doing it, and Danielle did. And I think part of the reason they purposely weren't doing it is because of the jury system, and they knew that they were going to find out, like, oh, don't you lie to me, because we're going to find out, and then we're not going to vote for you. So to a lot of people, especially Roddy, they felt that we're not allowed to lie in this game. And so the fact that Danielle did, they felt like, oh, you cheated. That's not fair.
Right.
So I think in modern Big Brother, Danielle's probably a better player than Jason, because she doesn't need to be as likable as he is. But in the game that they were playing, Jason was the perfect player for that format. And it's such a shame that he didn't win, because, oh man, he deserved it so much.
But at the same time, though, I think Lisa is a great winner as well. I think Lisa Donahue is a great player. I think very underrated. And I think, like you said, one of the best final threes ever.
Yes.
Strategically, Danielle's on a higher level than Jason, but in terms of just likability, and as someone who's been on a jury, that's a big factor in who you vote for to win the game. Is who do you want to win? Who do you like more? That's a big thing. I'm sorry. People say, oh, I'm going to vote for strategy and stuff. Certain times people do, but when it's close, when it's like neck and neck, a lot of times it's just, who do you like the most?
Yeah, and I really do think Lisa is a very underrated winner. I mean, I don't think she's like the best winner ever, but She, in the first half of the game, she was definitely, her head wasn't very in it. She was, she was hanging out with Eric a lot. But as soon as Eric leaves, Danielle attaches herself to Lisa and teaches her the ways of the game. And that's such a cool storyline. And it's very interesting to watch Lisa grow as a player. She doesn't vote Eric back in because she knows that she needs to keep her head in the game. She manages to stay at the final four over was it Final Four or Final Five? I can't remember now.
Yeah, she manages to stay over Final Four over Amy, which that is the move that cost Danielle and Jason the game. Absolutely. I do not understand what in the world they were thinking at 4. There's no veto at Final Four in Big Brother 3. The veto is gone. Danielle is head of household. She makes Jason to be the only vote to evict, so he's the only one not nominated. And some idiocy, they evict Amy, who had already been evicted once, and decide to take Lisa, a very athletic girl, to the final 3. Like, what were they thinking? I haven't even gotten a straight answer out of Danielle on Twitter of why they were not wanting to take Amy further into the game. I mean, if either one of you is sitting up against Amy in the end, I have to think you're a winner. All you have to do is say, look, I wasn't evicted. She was,
But here again, Brent, that's how good Lisa is, man. That's how good she is.
I guess, yeah. I'll give her credit for that, but they really dropped the ball. That was just akin to Vanessa not talking to Steve and threatening her vote. Like what Taran and I talked about, she totally dropped the ball at like the 26-mile marker of the marathon with only like 0.2 miles to go. They didn't finish, and they needed to finish. And they somehow took Lisa to the end, and that's where the whole season went wrong.
And another good thing was voting to keep Marcellus at Final Five against Danielle's wishes and Jason's wishes. She made them get the blood on their hands. She did a lot of good moves to kind of subtly undercut Danielle, even though Danielle was the person who had kind of started to run her game.
I thought that Lisa was not in on that plan. I thought that Lisa was surprised. She was. See, that's my problem with her as a winner. She was in the dark about that plan. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
She knew that they wanted Marcellus out, but she knew she wanted Marcellus to stay. I don't know I don't think she knew that Marcellus wasn't going to use it. But as soon as he did, I think she was kind of confused. Like, why didn't he use it? Maybe he's staying. But she would have voted for Marcellus to stay either way. She was very adamant about Marcellus staying.
I'm just saying that I thought that it was Jason and Danielle who were in on the plan. It was like Ian at the Final Four, or with like he had nothing to do with it. Like it was just he got the benefit of it, but he had nothing to do with it. It was all other people's doing. Okay.
In my memory, I did remember Lisa. I mean, the learning curve just being extraordinary. I remember the week 1, week 2, Lisa being someone that I would just have completely dismissed as a player. So, right. I mean, good on her for listening to Danielle, but like, that's why that's my knock on Lisa as a winner, is that like, you really had to like get coaching in ways that
true. In fairness, I mean, the greatest player of all time, in my opinion, another podcast we can get into, Dr. Will Kirby. I mean, he did not, he didn't get coaching, but the start of Big Brother 2 wasn't really going so great for him. And then as soon as Shannon left, then he woke up. So, I mean, that's how I feel about that.
So, but as far as the rest of the season goes, I mean, I think we have some great characters. I mean, Josh, like him or hate him, he was a very entertaining character.
Amazing.
Roddy was fantastic to watch.
Kiara.
Kiara was interesting.
The question is, who wasn't memorable?
And Marcellus,
who wasn't good?
Marcellus was fantastic in the diary room. He was the original, diary room king,
Right.
Great character.
Yeah, Lori
played out well.
Lori was the only one I think that Alex said was not memorable. I think really, honestly, everybody was. Jerry, I mean, not washing his damn nasty hands. I mean, Tanya. I mean, there's so many. I mean, maybe not Tanya, but like, there's so many people that are great in this season. It's awesome. So that's why 3's up there for me. That's why it's my number 4. But let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Let's keep this thing going. We're about like 2 hours into this thing. This is good. This is a good podcast. I think this is going to be the longest episode of the RHAPpy Hour ever. So I'm very excited that
I haven't died yet, so let's keep it going.
And Alex, old man Jerry hasn't died yet. It's great. Okay. All right. The number 6 rated season, according to the panel, with an average rank of 6.25. Alex had this season at number 5. Brent had this at number 6. I had this at number 6. And Taran had this at number 8. Now, this season we were talking a little bit earlier about the idea of production kind of like pushing for something to happen. There was a little bit of that this season, a little bit, but it doesn't take away from how good this season was. This is one of my favorites of all time, and this is kind of the season for me. I believe I was 13 when I first watched this season. This is kind of when I woke up and realized, wow, like there's so much strategy and stuff for Big Brother, and that's kind of when I fell in love with Big Brother for the strategy and that kind of stuff, thanks to my favorite player of all time, America's player, Eric Stein, and that is this season here, Big Brother 8. Evil Dick Donato is your winner, beating Danielle. That amazing storyline of Dick and Danielle, not talking to each other. They're coming back together. They work together. They have this amazing alliance and bond in the house that you see. Quite the season, lots of ups and downs. We have Mike Dutz, we have Wamber, we have Jamaica, we have Jessica. We got a lot of cool people, a lot of cool characters on this season. So I enjoy this season quite a bit. Alex did the whole Evil Dick situation with Eric and not sort of. I mean, and there's a lot of controversy over this. People have said that Evil Dick got helped out by Eric because Eric was America's player and that kind of stuff. Did that kind of factor into your rank of this season not being even higher than it was? Or do you think that no, just the whole season as a whole was amazing and just the seasons above this for you were just too good?
Oh, yeah, no, I feel like if Eric Stein is allowed to play his own game here, that this could easily be a top 2 season for me, top 3 season for me. I love almost everything about this season except the fact that Eric is actively denied the right to play his own game down the stretch and in fact is like made to undo himself. I mean, I got to talk to Eric a bit in New York this past week and it really just reminded how much different America's player was than Team America. I mean, it's night and day in terms of your ability to say no to production. I mean, he just had no recourse in terms of that. And it really did contribute to Dick's win. At the same time, it's still so high for me because, Eric almost gets it done, even with all the handicaps against him. Not only that, I think Dick brings, whether or not you would make the argument that he's a great winner or a great player because his social game is often very, very abrasive. I really enjoyed seeing that dynamic brought to Big Brother. This is the guy that will flip over the chessboard on you. This is the guy that will, get it, like really try to just grind you in Monopoly. You know what I mean? Like this is a game and here's somebody coming to the game actively saying, I'm going to play it angry, aggressive, and just put people on edge. And you see it work. You see Kale fall off of a veto because she's shaking, because Dick is in her face. It's pretty impressive at times. And whether or not you can certainly make the argument that it's not great social game. And I'd be right there with you, but I loved seeing it. And this is really, to me, the first time we really saw it.
Yeah, it's sort of like for me watching this style of play from Evil Dick and watching it work, it kind of reminds me of Russell Hantz in Survivor Samoa. We hadn't really seen that work before. And he did an excellent job at doing that. I mean, he called people out all the time, yet they still wouldn't go after him. It was amazing. So, I mean, despite, the America, and we don't need to get into that debate, but despite all that stuff with America's player, I still think that Dick did a phenomenal job. He played a great game. And it's incredible that somebody with a daughter, with a kid, not only made it to the final 2, he made it to the final 2 with his kid. Like how does that happen, right?
America's players, that's happened.
I guess. But like people are ripping everybody in 17 for, oh man, Lord, they're not getting rid of the twins. They're not even going after the twins. Yeah, but like look, season 8, there's a father-daughter and they go to the final 2. I mean, that's crazy. Brent, most memorable stuff from this season. Anything that comes to mind that you want to talk about from season 8?
Well, I mean, you have to talk about the Dustin blindside. 4-2, I think it was. Or was it 4-3, 4-2? I think it's 4-2.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. The point.
4-2.
Yeah. The look on his face when he got evicted was just such delicious television. Again, I go back to heroes and villains. there were two great heroes on this season. Dick, maybe there was one. Eric was the hero. Dick was the anti-hero.
Okay.
You know, he wasn't a villain, but he was an anti-hero. He was a hero in spite of himself. I don't think Dick realized how much he was liked by America. I'm sure Dick probably thought he was an asshole. People thought they hated Dick, and he probably loved that. And then when they liked him, he was like, oh, they like me? Like, really? Like, you know, I think it was just, it was such great television. I loved watching Eric play against the odds. I loved just, the final three, endurance challenge was just,
Epic.
that was right up there with the Big Brother 6 with the button. It was just absolutely epic. Like, I mean, give me that any day. So you could tell how much these people wanted it. It was just like Rachel and Big Brother 13. You could tell Dick wanted it. He would not be denied. Now, he ended up losing that challenge, but he put himself out there for how long? And how old is he? Like, it was just ridiculous television. Like, crazy. I loved it. Yeah.
I think it was like 6-7 hours. It was a long time.
Okay, I thought it was like 10, but whatever.
I don't know.
It was a long time. It was a long time. Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about production twists versus casting twists. I think this is a great season because you've got great examples of both. You've got this production twist with America's Player that I think we all agree, by and large, we're not as big fan of production twists. Then you've got this casting twist that for me is great. I mean, this is the kind of twist that if Big Brother wants twists, casting twists all day. I mean, you know, having three estranged pairs introduced at the beginning creates drama, creates sympathy for Danielle. She's crying in the bathroom and people are comforting her. I mean, it just kicks this like explosive cocktail off of a season just off with a bang. And I really, really appreciate that kind of twist.
Yeah, I agree. And also, it was the first time that I can remember where they have two gay guys come into the house as exes. Like, it's like, you know, the first time you get to see that on television, you know, I mean, I'm all about the things that really brought me joy were some of the diversity that Big Brother has brought to the table. You know, Big Brother this season had 3 people from the LGBT community on, which, like, I can't even, like, I remember back watching Survivor and, like, you were lucky if you got the token gay. I mean, that was, seriously, you were lucky if you got one. And Big Brother's done such a good job of bringing people who are not white, straight males onto reality television and letting them see what they can do. So I love that.
Taran, important question. Are you Team Joe or Team Dustin?
Team Dustin.
Team Dustin. All right.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm also, me too. Because I got blindsided and he did too. So we have that bond, you know.
I felt like Dustin kind of got a bad. He kind of got scumbagged by Big Brother the week he got blindsided. They knew that it was going to happen, so they really just played up a villainous edit for him that I didn't necessarily think he deserved. It made for great television, but I mean, he was definitely very arrogant in the house. But I really think they played it up to make it more satisfying when he gets blindsided.
Right. I have to say that I'm Team Joe because I love the fact that he's so bitchy after Jen wins the head of household because of the teacup tiebreaker. And I love the fact that usually Big Brother won't do this. They won't air contestants criticizing Big Brother, but they aired his confessional where he's talking about the technicality of the door. Like, he's like, how in the world is that so perfect that this girl doesn't know how to, you know, account for volume, and she's saved by the fact that there's this technicality. Like I love Joe in that moment. I was so sad that he got evicted there, but the season didn't suffer for it, and I think that is a testament to the cast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great cast.
I like Big Brother 8. It's one of the hardest seasons to rewatch for me, and it was one of the hardest seasons to watch live for me, because I just feel for Eric so much, and it just, especially when I originally watched it, I was this little kid, and I I identified with Eric so much.
Me too.
People were so mean to him online, and America was just screwing him over left and right, and everybody was loving it and applauding it, and I just felt like I am alone in this world. Like this is the worst. And
please, cry me a river, Taran. He got to go on the greatest show on reality TV Big Brother. He made it all the way to the final 5. He's remembered as one of the most beloved characters in the history of Big Brother.
Yeah,
and we're sitting at home crying for him. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I think I would have loved to go in as America's player.
If you're gonna feel bad for anybody, if you're gonna feel bad for anybody in Big Brother, though, I'm gonna feel bad for Eric and maybe like Jody.
Yeah, poor Jody.
Justice for Jody.
But yeah, and about Evil Dick, you know, like he's gone. He's gone without America's play. Eric was gonna vote him out, and America forced him to keep him. You know, like
and he get that, and then also too. The veto when Eric won that veto and he wasn't allowed to use it because America didn't have time for him to decide if he should use it or not, like that kind of stuff. But that goes to show how good Eric is. Eric came in 5th by having to go. He had to, they're against Dick, and he's like, actually, you know what, Dick, let's work together again. Like that's what? Like how do you pull that off?
I think Eric is the best player to never win the game. I think Dick had a huge advantage having the best player to never win the game have to help him out throughout the entire season. And watching Eric is the reason I really love this season. It definitely had some good moments as well in the beginning. Jen is very interesting to watch because she's on one level like very vapid, and then on another level like above the game, like Dick is very like entrenched in like the drama and stuff, and Jen is like, I'm over it, like whatever. But then at the same time, she's like, Nick, I don't like you, Nick, but I do like you, Nick, and screw Danny for liking you, Nick. And I mean, she is definitely an interesting character. We've got Kale who was like riding high, the first week, and then
Mrs. Robinson, baby,
and Burns. We got Jessica and Eric, which, unfortunately doesn't turn out very well, but definitely interesting to watch. Justin, all that stuff. And another thing that bugged me about season 8 was the banner plane and all that stuff. Like it's further screwing Eric over. But the fact that Eric manages to escape from a blindside back, or not a blindside because he learned about it ahead of time, but like a back door where he should have gone home. That happens very rarely. Lots of fun stuff, but very infuriating, at least for me, watching the America's Player stuff happen in the banner plane and all that. But in general, definitely a very good season.
I love Jen. Yeah. Can we talk about Jen when she said, I will now perform eating. It's like... It's so great. Like, why don't they cast more people like this on this television show? Like, where did they find this girl?
There are no more Jens.
Their game to like count how many times or take a drink every time she says I.
Yes.
Their stuff, like just the tasks that Eric had to do, were very entertaining. The mustard on his shirt. I do that for $1.
The cereal.
Yeah, the cereal.
Right, mimicking. Takes his thrown milk in his face. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Good times, people. Good times.
Good times this season.
I think season 8 is probably one of the better seasons to introduce someone to Big Brother. It doesn't have any returning players. It has a great cast, and things don't necessarily play out the way you want them to, unless you like Dick and Danielle, which you probably might if you're just watching the show. I think it's a very good beginner season because it doesn't have the stigma of like the old style of editing and the slowness of that. But it's also not like super fast paced in the way that it is now. No returning players, all that stuff. I think if you're going to start someone with Big Brother, start probably with season 8.
Yeah, in the post-Arnold Shapiro era, I think that this season is arguably the best. There's a couple other seasons that we're going to talk about, but in terms of showing a beginner, somebody who's never watched Big Brother, getting them hooked on Big Brother, season 8's a great one, just because there's so much of this kind of stuff going on. But let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Number 6 is in the books. That was season 8. We're going to number 5 in the top 5, baby.
Top 5, baby.
2 hours into this thing. Hopefully it won't go 4 hours. But if it does, why not, right? Okay. Number 5. Now, this season we had Alex and I had it at number 3. Taran had it at number 4. Brent had it at number 10. So a little bit of a different throw with Brent again. Okay, so going back to some TV-13 earlier in the podcast, this season, casting wise, is amazing. It's for nostalgic purposes, it's great as well. If you are a big fan of this show, because technically this is the Survivor Borneo of Big Brother. It's the first season in which we had the modern rules, and not even really, we didn't have a veto yet, but the HOH era began with this season. And if it wasn't for this winner, in Dr. Will Kirby, I don't think people would remember it quite as vividly, or they wouldn't be as feel so great about this season. And that is season 2. That comes in 5th place. A lot of people probably have this as their number 1, their number 2, but we've got it a little bit lower. It was hard. I put it at 3. Alex put it at 3. It was hard for me even putting it there. So let's just jump into Brent again. We're going to put you on blast, man. Why'd you got season 2 down at 10?
Well, I found it intriguing that I had it as so much lower than all the rest of you, and I think the reason is because there was so much downtime. You know, we're talking about entertainment here, okay? Yes, I agree with you. Dr. Will, one of the best winners the seasons that the Big Brother's ever had. I agree. Without him, just like without Richard Hatch, I'm not sure that Big Brother continues to stand the test of time. So there is that. A lot of great characters, but it was so boring. The show was still finding its feet for me. There was no veto. Yes, it was. I know Taran will maybe talk about the fact that Will's positioning in the game without the veto is so much more entertaining on its own, but I don't feel that way because there was so much downtime. There were no competitions to watch. There was just like a food competition and an HOH competition. And the rest of the week, they just sat around and smoked. Like, it was just terrible. Like, I couldn't with this season. Looking back on it, I mean, at the time it was great. But I remember how bored I was after the HOH was determined because you already knew what was going to happen and there's no way for anybody to save themselves. Like I said, I felt like the show was still finding its feet. It was still taking baby steps, and finally they got it right in Big Brother 3, and then even more right in Big Brother 4. But at this point, I that's why I have it, all the way down at 10. And I still feel that way.
Okay, well, Alex, let's talk to you because you did not watch this when it was airing, so you don't really have the nostalgia factor here. So defend your number 3 ranking of Big Brother 2. Why do you have it so much higher than Brent does? Because Brent does bring up a few valid points. There was no veto. A lot of times you kind of didn't know what was going to happen, although Dr. Will managed to get himself out of some pretty sticky situations. So, yeah, well, what's the reasoning behind this rank here?
You know, it's interesting. I almost feel like the lack of a nostalgia factor with a season like this is why I like it more. Brent talks about how boring it was from week to week. Well, I binged this season. So there was no week-to-week downtime. I went from HOH to HOH. I cranked this season out. So, I didn't get that. You know what I mean? So that's a huge difference. For me, it's a situation where it's a great cat. I mean, you have pretty much everything you're looking for. And it was all there at the beginning, I think, except for what Brent's talking about, which is, an appropriate budget for competitions. I loved Rob talking to Mike Boogie a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the competition where they're throwing CDs into Tupperware that's floating in the pool. Like that is not a Big Brother competition.
So funny.
That being said, I think that first head of household where they're spinning a wheel and just like making blanket judgments about strangers is to this day the best first HOH they've ever done. I've been asking for it every season since, basically. I think it's fantastic. It sets people off right from the get-go. I think, you see an early divide and you see a predictable steamroll develop, and then, one man is able to basically subvert that without a veto. I mean, it really is impressive to me, and it's on another level than Derek. A, there's no veto. B, there's no battle of the block. C, there's no Team America. And then D, there's just, to me, smarter people. Like, this is a house of people who are actually thinking whether or not they have figured out the strategy of the game or what it will become. Like, Kent is not an idiot. He's sitting there thinking about, like the car. He's not
other people.
He's not socially savvy, but he's not stupid. I mean, there's a lot of people. Monica is very smart. Like, there's a lot of people in there
that are
watching and observing and paying close attention. And Will is still able to get it done without any kind of a buffer. And to me, that's just unreal.
And you bring up a good point as well. Like that's above Derek, in my opinion. And also, too, Derek didn't lose Cody and Beast Mode Cowboy and Frankie and all these other people. Will lost everyone. He was by himself, and he managed to turn everything around. Taran, any memorable moments that really stick out for you about season 2?
Okay, so I love season 2. In fact, the second half of it is easily one of the best Big Brother viewing experiences, I think. The problem I had with it is the first half of the season, Dr. Will is almost invisible. The most we get from him is his showmance with Shannon, which is just kind of like, it's kind of like gross.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't get the Dr. Will we know and love until really halfway through. And then on top of that, you have the old style editing, which is good. I feel like they've gone too far away from it, because they had a lot of montages about, you know, like life in the house, character building, and it was just a little too much of that. And I feel like right around the middle of Big Brother, like 6 to 10, we got the perfect mixture. And then since then, we've gotten a little too far down the road of, you know, like scripted DRs and no like life in the house moments, or too few at least. But so I feel like Big Brother 2 definitely did suffer from that. As far as the veto goes, I think not having the veto was actually a big benefit to Dr. Will's game. The veto adds a lot of complexity to scenarios and adds a lot of variables that you have to control. And especially for someone like Dr. Will, who he's not going to win the veto anyway. If the wrong person wins the veto, all of a sudden Dr. Will's strategy of being on the block, 4 times, he might be going home just incidentally. And not having the veto means he can control exactly who the nominations will be, because he can always make sure there's at least one person that's going to go out in front of him. And apart from that, just watching Dr. Will work his magic is pretty much the only reason I have this, the biggest reason at least, that I have this season ranked so high. All the lies he tells, the one thing we do get from him in the beginning, the fast that he orchestrates.
Yeah.
So fun. And he has an attitude that really is fun to watch about the game. He acts like he's a little bit above it. He like doesn't care, and he's having fun. But at the same time, he really does care, and he really is trying. And all the way down, having Hardy and Nicole kind of win a lot of those HOHs, and seeing Dr. Will, all he needs to do is just keep in their ear, and he manipulates the entire show. It's fun to watch. But again, the first half is what knocks it for me. I have for me, the top 4 seasons are the 4 seasons with the 2 best players. This ranks the lowest for me because we see the least of Dr. Will here, and the other reasons I mentioned.
By the way, I just want to bring up really quickly where the moment that really saved this season, I hate to say saved it for me, but like I said, I didn't really respond great to it at the time, was a Final 4 HOH. They're all holding on to the key.
Yeah.
Nicole takes her hand off the key accidentally. Will calls her on it, and Big Brother calls her on it. And then, and Will had already made a deal with Nicole and Hardy, like it's us 3 to the end together. And then the minute Nicole's off, Will looks at Monica. I don't know how long he hung onto the key, but it wasn't long. And it's like Richard Hatch stepping off the pedestal. He just takes his hand off the key and says, "It's yours," because he knows what she has to do, and he doesn't even care. He's like, yeah. I know you have to evict Hardy at this point. I know you aren't going to put me on the block, and I'm going to take my hand off the key and let you do it. Like, I loved watching that. That more than anything was like, wow, this show may have legs for me. I really enjoyed that part of it.
It's funny too, because I feel like that's probably one of the weakest moments in his game, because he's in a lot of danger there if Nicole wins instead of Monica, and he really goes to the end in a huge disadvantage. So the way it plays out is fantastic, and I love that he takes his hand off. Wow, what history would be so different if No, Nicole doesn't take a hand off of that key. Like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
I think
Crazy.
ultimately the great thing about this season and why it really stands the test of time the way Survivor Borneo does is, even though it's an original, like kind of an original season, you've got a bunch of people kind of tricking themselves into thinking they can play an upfront, honest game. And you've got one guy who has already figured out the rules. And he's just going to work it. You know what I mean? Like he says early on that he's going to lie, that this is not going to be an issue for him. And you really do hear from everyone else in the first couple of weeks about how they think they can kind of navigate themselves through social skill and likability and not have to lie. And then it's not until like late in the game where where Nicole really realizes like, oh, wow. Like, everyone realized like we were all going to have to do this. You were just the one person who saw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's interesting seeing that evolution of these people realizing that. And nowadays in reality TV, people don't care about that at all. But back then, that was a big deal. And again, we talked about that during the Big Brother 3 discussion. But yeah, no, 2, I think is great. And again, the cast and the winner, this is a situation, again, I'm with Taran. I think that if the 4 games in which the 2 best players ever played, I think those are some of the greatest seasons ever, just because it only takes 1. So I said that earlier. You can't a season can't rely on 2 people. It can't. But when you've got a really good supporting cast and you got one person that's just amazing, then it can. So contradicting myself. That's what happens when you do a podcast where you're 2 hours and 30 or so minutes into it. Okay, let's get into the next one here. Number 4 in the ranks, and let's go through all of the seasons that we've ranked so far, just to recap, because it has been a while. So 17th place, we had season 1. In 16th, we had season 9. In 15th, season 11. In 14th, season 13. In 12th, we have season 16. In 11th, we have season 4. I screwed that up here. Now I'm losing track. Okay, hold on a sec here.
Well, maybe it's just rather just go down the list. Like we'll
down the list. Okay,
like fifth place. Don't even say the name. Just go down the list. Like so, the order that we
notes are messed up. My notes are messed up because I have the ties, and that's
right.
Yeah. So we decided. Okay, we decided it was 16. Then we decided it was 4. Then we decided it was 5. Then we decided it was 12. Okay, now number 9 is season 15. Number 8 is season 17. Number 7 is season 3. 6 is season 8. 5 is season 2. And there we go. Final 4. Big moment, guys. This is crazy. Here we go. We're going to find out the 4th. Well, we know what the top 4 seasons are left. We only got 4 left, but we're going to find out which one is the best, at least the consensus amongst us. And before we get into that, we're going to go to number 4. Number 4 on the list, a great season. One of the most memorable seasons in recent memory. And I just said that sometimes, I contradicted myself earlier. Sometimes if it just takes one to take over a season. And I think that was the case in this season here. Season 14 with an average rank of 4.25. Alex had it at 6. Brent had it at number 1.
I did.
I had it at 7. And Taran had it at 3. And that is season 14. Dan Giesling, Dan's funeral. Ian Terry wins this season. And there are so many different things we could talk about this season. Alex, I'm going to throw it to you. Beyond, what do you want? Dan's funeral, the Shane and Danielle blindside. What was the most impressive thing that Dan did this season? And really, is it just, if there's no Dan, this is not this high in the ranks, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the reason why I have it lower than, Taran or Brent do. To me, obviously there's not a lot to nitpick once we get up here, but the few things that I would nitpick would be obviously, the coaches coming into the game, I thought was a bit just kind of the way that all played out, not my favorite. I don't like fans versus favorites seasons in general. I think they are inherently kind of set up to be really unfair. And even our winner kind of was playing over his head for a lot of this game because of it. I think also this season suffers a little bit from some players that don't belong. I think, this is an example of like modern big casts. Now we're doing 16, and unfortunately you're going to get some Gen Cities and some Chef Joes and some JoJos and people that, probably don't belong in that house, in all fairness, are just way over their heads and have no idea what's going on.
How dare you insult JoJo? How dare you, Alex?
With all due respect, I mean, her game was really, really not great.
He was more of a threat than Danielle and Dan together.
I agree. And Dr. Will. JoJo's amazing. Okay, well, Brent, you've got a number one. So defend this. Why is Big Brother 14 the best season of all time?
2 words, Dan Giesling. It really was a masterpiece watching him this season. Like, I was so impressed because at the time, first, I can't remember. I don't know what I was doing, but I had not seen season 10 live. Like, I ended up having to go back and watch it. So I didn't understand. Everybody loved Dan, and I didn't understand what the big deal was about Dan at the time. And so I got to watch him for the first time in season 14. And Dan, to me, is someone who can completely carry a season. He's just like Rachel to me. Like, and even more so, he's got this great mix of humor, evil, and sex that's just all rolled into one. A lot of people don't think, like you, I'm sure you're a straight guy, you don't think Dan is very sexy. I think he's incredibly sexy. Okay. Like, and it's not just that. Like, he's like, the way he looks at you, it's like he's dinging me with his eyes. Like, he's in the diary room, and he's just looking at you like, it's like he's looking into your soul. Like that. Like, it's so fun to watch. And seeing him just totally fuck with everyone's minds this season. Sorry, I just have to say it. It's because that's what he was doing. He was just fucking with them, and he reveled in it. Like when Jason was talking about it at the end of Big Brother 17, our most recent season, when he said that he wanted to see Vanessa bathe in their blood. That's what Dan was doing, and it was fucking glorious to see. I loved every minute of it. I didn't even mind the fact that he didn't win the season. Obviously, I think he should have won the season, but I understood where the jury was coming from on that one. I think Dan made a terrible mistake in thinking that Ian was going to be a better person to take to the end than Danielle. But besides that, it was such a masterpiece to watch, and I could not get enough of it. I was sad when it ended. Like, it was that good to me.
Yeah, actually, and that's a really good point. I remember I was sad when it was over too, because that was such a fun summer. I really enjoyed that, and just the feeds, everything. But also too, like, I think nowadays in the most recent couple of seasons of Big Brother, even on 17, I was a little bit tired at the end. Like, it was a long time. Whereas with 14, it was just such a ride the entire way through. And we lost Brent again, but hopefully he'll come right back in a sec.
Really? Okay, cool.
No, but I hear you. Okay, so maybe you're okay.
Seats open.
So maybe just leave and come back, Brent. But Taran, Brent's fixing his connection. If Dan won this season, would this be your number one? Because you had it number 3.
This would be number 1. If Dan won, it would absolutely be number 1. And so screw you, jury, for messing up the number 1 season. I mean, I've met Dan in person. You can't really get it from like seeing him on a screen, but the mist is totally real. Like, you meet him, he immediately puts you at ease, and you're just like, this guy's really awesome. Like, you're not nervous when you talk to him. It's just like, it's so strange, and it's such a weird experience. Like, you can see why he's so good at the game. And watching, I mean, he's just like a kid playing in a candy store full of knives. Like, it's so fun to watch him play the game. Especially season 14, because in season 14 he had so many things that went terribly wrong for him, and he just squeaks by every single time. The funeral was easily the most amazing thing to watch on the feeds and in the show in Big Brother history. You had people like, what is Dan doing? This isn't going to work. Why doesn't he just lay down and die? And it's crazy watching it happen. And people say like, other than Dan, there wasn't much to see. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Watching Boogie play was great. Frank, even though I don't think Frank's a great player, he was a very good character. And the fact that he won so many competitions and threw such a wrench into Dan's plans was entertaining. We got Janelle, obviously. She got a bad, draw from the get-go. But in general, like she was fun to watch. We had Brittany, who was doing very well. Surprisingly, when she first went in the house, everyone was like, what is Brittany doing there? Why does she deserve to be there? She earned her spot. And then even Ian, who's I think he's a little bit overrated as a winner, but definitely a solid player. I love Ian as a person, by the way. He's probably one of my favorite winners as a person. Like I'd probably hang out with him and have a lot of fun. Just, gameplay wise.
Yeah, and Taran, as someone who has hung out with Ian Terry, I know for a fact you would have a lot of fun because you and I are very similar. So yes, you would have a great time with Ian.
So I feel bad for saying it, but
My biggest problem with Ian as a winner is that so much of the time he didn't know what was going on. Like there are so many winners in the history of the show where they knew where all the pieces were. They knew where all the cards were. Ian, so many times he was blindsided by things. He didn't know. He wasn't in the majority. He didn't know what was going on. It was just over his head completely. I will cut him some slack in terms of the fact that he was a newbie playing against some veterans. But on the other hand, he, by the time you get to the end, you're expected to know what's going on. And like he had nothing to do with him being saved at Final Four, other than saying yes to Dan when Dan said, will you throw this for me? By the way, can I say one more thing really quick? Like I hear what Taran's saying about Dan's missed. Dan, to me, and you guys might just laugh at this, is I look at Dan, and if I played with him, I would be like, I know you're going to fuck me, but it's going to feel so good when you do. Like he's going to screw with you.
Oh no, we
fall in love with him. Like it's just okay. You fall in love with Dan. It's just like he just makes it so easy for you to love him and to love to hate him in some ways.
Yeah, and
I think it's.
So maybe not many people know this, but I'm sure a lot of people do. We really missed a great moment in Big Brother history when Dan doesn't win that final HOH because he had such a fantastic speech planned for backstabbing Danielle. He's going to talk about, how in horror movies, right at the end, like they turn around and like you get stabbed in the back. I'm cutting you, Danielle. Like it was, oh man, the way he plays the game is so fun to watch and it's amazing in general. And then another thing I wanted to point out is a lot of people mention that the coaches were immune for the first 4 weeks or whatever. And that's how they discredit some of what how Dan played the game. Dan wasn't immune for the first 4 weeks. He was up for eviction in the second week, essentially. You can argue like maybe they don't, he wasn't personally up for eviction, but he was in danger of leaving, and most of them were under the assumption that the coaches were coming into the game, and that was a huge reason why Danielle was up on the block in the first place. And Ian was also immune for 1 week, so they had the same amount of immunity technically. So I just don't think it's as big of a detriment as people say it is. And one thing I didn't like was when the coaches come in the game, when they cancel the eviction. That's not very good. I'm not a fan of that. And then apart from that, I mean, just the season as a whole, watching it play out, there were almost no moments where it ever became dull. And Dan managed to, like Jordan said, the end game is usually a part of the game where everything slows down. You just kind of get sick of it. And it was always fun watching the feeds, even watching the feeds, which are usually like totally boring by the time it's down to 4 and 3. So entertaining to watch. Dan was still orchestrating fights between Ian and Danielle at final 3. Like, oh, come on. So good.
So good. Alex, any final thoughts on 14?
Yeah, it's interesting. This was my first season of feeds, so I didn't necessarily have anything to compare it to. So maybe that's a factor for me, having it just outside the top 5. I also think that I had watched Big Brother 10. I had gone back and watched Big Brother 10 before Big Brother 14. And so I think, me personally, I really, really enjoyed Dan in Big Brother 10. Toward down the stretch in Big Brother 14, he starts to come off a little bit snake oil salesman to me. I really do feel like the mist stops working at a point. Well, it keeps working in the house, but I just wonder if this isn't Chef Joe and Gen City and a bunch of scrubs. Like, does this really play? Because I don't think it plays.
He got everyone out that wouldn't buy it. That was kind of the point.
Oh, I understand. I'm with you. I just, when I'm creating my top 5, I think the only reason it's at 6 is because, all the things we talk about why this isn't maybe the best season for you to watch as your first season, there being returning players, there being a button, there being a bunch of twists and coaches competitions and differences from the regular show. I think it's that, and then couple it with, I had created lofty expectations for Dan, and he absolutely met those. I'm not going to say he didn't, but he did it in a way that I didn't expect. And that way was ultimately the same way that cost him the jury votes in my mind.
I see. Yeah. Okay. That's something else I have to mention.
That he never would have won.
He never would have won. Right. The jury said they would have voted anyone over Dan. And that's because in the House, they had all, at least most of them had agreed, we're not going to vote for a returning, winner.
I think that's a knock against this season too, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Flawed,
Yeah, that's why it's not, number 2 or number 1 for me, because of the way the jury, voted and the whole attitude that they had about it. It was not like a fun way to end the season. What?
I don't even mind the fact that the jury, I did at the time, but I didn't mind the fact that the jury didn't vote the way I wanted them to vote, that they should have voted for Dan to be the winner, because to me, he was the winner. He was the obvious driving force of the season. He was the winner. I don't care what the check says. Dan was the winner of this season. Ian was not the winner of the season. I don't care what those fucking 7 people on the jury think. Dan was the winner, so go to hell, everybody else.
The people that act like Dan is Russell Hantz and that it's his fault he didn't get the vote because he had a terrible social game. This is the only guy in history that's won with a unanimous vote. He does not have a bad social game. He was put in a situation where a ton of things went wrong.
I have the mist, Taran. I have the mist. It's my funeral. Frank, I need you to. I'm gonna sell out the Quack Pack to you. I'm the greatest of all time. No, I agree with you. That's a fair point. Just to cap this thing off for me, just because I'm sure people in the comments might be saying, "Why do you have it so low at 7?" The reason why I had it lower at 7 was because it's very top heavy, but the bottom is very weak. And again, goes to what Alex was saying about Chef Joe and Gen City and your JoJo's. And even your Shanes and your Danielles, not the greatest. So that's why I had it there. But I agree with you guys. We can have a conversation about, is Dan the best ever, another day, because I'm sure we've got lots of time. There's a long off season. I do want
to quickly mention, Joe had a couple of fun moments. The wordless nomination speech and the accidentally talking to Dan. Hey, what's up? It's
Hey.
That was the best.
Dan just came up to me and he said that he's going to do some Man Donut. I hate Dan. Wait, what?
This is Dan.
Yeah, Dan sucks. This is Dan. Oh, what's up?
What's up? Yeah, that was so great for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So great.
Yeah, my fiance and I talked about that a lot in the Big Brother Canada 3 house, that moment. We just loved it so much. Oh, so great. Great moment. Okay, the number 4 season is in the books. Number 3. Now, this season doesn't have a winner that we would probably say is one of the best winners ever. I think this person is a little bit underrated, but we'll leave it at that for now. A very entertaining season. And we talked a lot today about heroes and villains. And this season had no lack of either of those. And that is one season and I posted in the Rob as a Podcast patron group. And if you want to become a patron of Rob as a Podcast, go to robasawebsite.com/patron. Go check that out for sure. But in that Facebook group, I put up a little thread saying, hey, we're going to be doing this podcast today. Do you guys have any questions? And one of the questions I got was from Amy Shapiro. And she said, if this season is not number 1, please explain why it is not, please. And that is season 6. Season 6 comes in at 3rd place, an average ranking of 3.75. Alex has it at 4. Brent has it at 2. I have it at 2. And Taran has it at 7. Taran, why the low rank of season 6?
I do love the season, and it was probably my favorite season watching it live. At least until Big Brother 7 aired. But even then, it was probably my second favorite season for a long time. It's one that for me doesn't hold up as much on a rewatch. It has a kind of like a dead area in the middle. It starts off pretty strong, and then even toward the end, it's not the greatest. I I'm a big fan of Maggie's game, even though I know a lot of people aren't. She played like a cult leader, and it was basically a cult, the cult of RHAPpy. I was in love with Kaser when I watched the season live.
Me too.
He was so like such a nice guy. Unfortunately, not very good at Big Brother. Janelle is such a fantastic character. You cannot help but want her to do well, and the way she shits all over the the friendship constantly is just the most. It's fantastic. But yeah, for the most part, like it had a lot of good drama moments. Watching James too was an entertaining person, but other than Maggie, Janelle, Kaser, and James, like for me, I didn't really find anyone else popping out too much. And that's just me. Howie maybe, but Howie's Howie.
Hurricane Howie, and the Jack Shack, man, that popped out a lot for me. Alex.
I was a big fan of Rachel, but the fact that she lets Howie, nominate James, like, come on, man, you should know.
So dumb. Alex, you had this one a little bit higher than Taran. You had this one at 4. Why the ranking of 4? And do you think that if Janelle won this season, we would remember it would be even higher in the public opinion?
Maybe in public opinion, it wouldn't change my ranking. To me, it's not even about, I think Maggie's a perfectly fine winner. I think, like you said, I think she's very underrated. And she definitely, if you go back and watch this, there are definitely things she does that create agency that maybe you didn't see on the first watch. I also agree with Taran that this season is a lot of fun on the first watch, and maybe on the second watch, you're like, was this really as fun as I remember it? I appreciate that fans really love that there are two sides and that they go back and forth. To me, that's not actually the best Big Brother. My favorite Big Brother is when everyone is good enough to recognize that it's not good to be kind of pigeonholed into a spot. And so everyone has deals with everyone, and it's super confusing. That's what I like. This is binary. You know what I mean? Like Brent said with season 2, when someone went head of household this season, okay, well, they're putting up 2 from the other side. It became predictable to me. And even if you're someone that really appreciates the drama and the two sides, and I get all of that, for me, I prefer to see a bunch of free agents in there just wheeling and dealing and thinking about what's best for me. And, I couldn't get past ultimately like shrines to RHAPpy, some of that stuff. But then there's so much to like, you know what I mean? I think the element of the hidden room is amazing. Why haven't we seen that since? The element of gold bars, a usable monetary currency like garnets in the Genius that you can use in the game as a bargaining chip. Where is that? Why do we not have that? Why has it taken 11 seasons to see that again? So I think with 6, I mean, I could write tons and tons in the pros column, and I just have a few things in the con column where like the 3 seasons above it just don't have for me.
Brent, what about you? You had this at 2, so you and I think we're on the same page on this one. Do you agree with Alex that you want more of a season that there's everyone has deals with everyone, or this binary type of season where everyone's just taking shots at each other? You find that more entertaining?
Well, I found it very entertaining because it was like a roller coaster every week. Like HOH was everything. It was the end all and be all. I mean, if you didn't win it, your side of the house was absolutely screwed. I do think that if Janelle had pulled it out and she was a tiebreaker away from winning, that this would probably be my number 1 season, because she was like Rachel, she was like Dan, she was so out in front. She was not hiding in the background. She was winning competitions. She was out there taking the bullets from people. And by the way, we talk about heroes and villains. Like you said, this season had everything. And the hilarious part is that the villains thought they were the heroes of the story. They were the ones that thinking, and there was such a rude awakening when they realized, oh my God, America doesn't like us. Like they're voting for Janelle. They voted to give her the phone call. They voted to give her the trip out of the house. It was just, the feeds were great watching Bo and Janelle go at it when she's calling him basically a male whore and he's calling her, I can't remember what he called her, bitch. But it was, yes, it was just absolutely wonderful feeds, delicious stuff. I wasn't as in love with Kaser as I was with Howie. I just thought he was such a big straight lug, and I love the fact that he was so freaking dumb. But I responded well to that from an entertainment perspective, and it didn't even get old for me when he got to Big Brother 7. Like I loved everything about the Sovereign Six. I hated the friendship with a passion, and I love the fact that there was such a binary dichotomy. It was just you love them or you hate them, and I knew where everybody stood. I would also argue with Taran that Yvette was a huge character for me this season. I love her in the DR. She was good enough to be brought back as a possibility to come back into the show for Big Brother All-Stars, and she knew. Well, I mean, I do wish that she had taken Janelle to the end, but I think her better shot was probably against Maggie. But we can talk about it. So I don't think she was winning either way.
Yeah, no, Yvette, I agree. I think Yvette, as much as she wasn't the most liked person by America, I think that she was definitely a good character, and that's why she garnered that invite, at least to the vote for Big Brother All-Stars. Right. But yeah, I just think that there's so much going on here. There's so many moments. There's the moment when Michael tells RHAPpy that I don't know I think he said that he has a small penis or something, and then he like gets up and he like loses his mind. Like they blank it out on the show. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I can't remember. I haven't seen it in a while. But is hilarious. That's amazing. Like that is so funny. And he just gets up and he just like loses his mind. Kaser, when Yvette calls him like a very awful again. This is why I don't think Big Brother 15 should be viewed in the way it is, because Yvette calls Kaser a sand N-word. Like, are you kidding me? Like that? What is wrong with you? Somebody who is also a minority. So that kind of stuff I did not like from Yvette, but still a prominent character on the show. And again, those kinds of emotions. And now I'm getting all riled up because it's reminding me of my grade 6 self watching Big Brother 6. Just, I hate the friendship so much. But I mean, that's what made it amazing. It was such a great season. So even though, there wasn't, there was. The Sovereign Six was just so popular, and we saw that with Big Brother All-Stars, all of them coming back, getting voted into the game. I think that there was a lot there, and pretty much everybody brought something to the table because of that dichotomy, because everybody was on, you're either the friendship side or you're the Sovereign Six side, and everybody is bringing something to the table. And that's kind of why I like some of these older seasons, because there's fewer people in the house, and everybody pretty much for the most part that is there for a reason, and they bring something to the show. Okay. Well, guys, it's 3:03 Pacific, 6:03 Eastern time. We've been talking for almost 3 hours here. At least in the pre-show, Taran and I have been together for 3 hours. Alex, I think has too. Brent went off in the pre-show getting his stuff set up, but this is good. It's almost 3 hours. It's probably going to be a 3-hour show, so I'm very excited. We're down to the final two. There are two left here, and this is a very narrow margin. The number 2 rated season came in with an average score of 2.75, an average rank of 2.75, and the number 1 ranked show or season had a rank of 2.25. So 0.5 is the difference between these two seasons. So it is very, very close. And what do you got? Do you want to start with, should we start with 2, or should we just get right into number 1? Or do you want to talk about both and debate them?
Let's start with 2. Let's start with 2.
Okay, number 2. Yeah. Alex voted this season number 2. Brent voted at 3. I voted at 5, and I will admit
it's your fault.
It's my fault. It's my fault for this season not being higher, but I still think that this season that's number 1 is better. So I'm glad that I had it for that reason. But alas, I have a number 5. Taran's number 1 season here. And again, talking about great winners, and this is another season where we have not only a great winner, but a lot of great characters, and that is season 10. Jerry, how excited are you to have your season be number 2 overall?
We made it. We're home. We went home. We were going home, and now we're here.
Amazing. All right, Brian, I'm gonna make this sign. This will be our signal. And when we want to talk, you just do this. Jerry. Oh my gosh. Gotta love me some Jerry McDonald. Season 10, ladies and gentlemen, is number 2. Dan Giesling is the winner of this season. The cast on this season is impeccable. every single person is awesome on this season. And I think some of the people that went early that weren't the biggest of characters, like a Steven, like an Angie, people like that on another season could have been completely different. Taran, number 1, season 10, defend it. Why is it number 1?
It's the perfect season of Big Brother, at least compared to everything else. Right from the very beginning, it starts off with a bang. And it's also probably the season where we see, except for maybe the other season that we're going to be talking about, one of the few seasons where we really see the main player, his strategy throughout the entire game explained very well and given a lot of airtime to really be able to appreciate it. We see Dan, take a huge hit in the first week and then go down on the, lay down and say, I'm nothing. Don't worry with me. He throws a veto when he's on the block in order to make sure
that's a really good strategy. I've heard really good things about that.
In order to ensure his weak image, and he intentionally votes against the house in order to say, "Hey, look, I'm a loyal guy. What can I say?" And it works. And then he gets, halfway through and he throws a wrench into everyone's plan and he flips the house. And then from then on, he takes complete control. You got replacement nominee roulette. Throughout, we got Rennie, we got Keisha, all the fights, Keisha's birthday. If you like the drama is there. If you like the characters are there. If you like the gameplay is there. It's probably one of the most perfect games played. You can argue maybe Derek played a more perfect game because things that were out of his control went a little more right. But Dan never cast a vote cast against him. He wins unanimously over another great player in Memphis who is underrated for sure. Just everything about this season. There's no times where it starts to get boring. It's always interesting. The feeds were always fantastic to watch. And just entertaining just from watching the characters and then the gameplay as well. There's no faults with this season. It's absolutely, I think a lot of people rate this as number 1, and I think a lot of people rate the other one as number 1 too. But as far as modern seasons go, it's absolutely the pinnacle.
Brent, memorable moments from season 10 for you. What's the most memorable? What stands out?
Oh gosh, the most memorable would be Dan backstabbing Ollie. He gave him that deal when they were both hanging on the head of household swing, whatever it was, and it was very similar to the one they had in Big Brother 17, I think.
Yes.
Where it was like they were both on the swing on the disc or whatever, and they're both hanging on forever. Going into the wall, and Dan makes a deal with Ollie and says, you can name one of the nominees, and if the veto's used, you can name the replacement nominee. And of course, it's so funny watching Ollie come up the stairs to tell Dan, okay, this is who I want the replacement nominee to be. And then Dan totally he doesn't even give him a heads up. It's great television. That's the thing about Dan that I didn't even say in Big Brother 14. When we were talking about that, Dan has a great sense of the show. It's so much harder to be a great winner and also give great TV, and Dan does both well. You guys can still hear me okay? I'm coming loud and through?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. All right, just want to make sure you faded out. I look from my point of view. So Dan's he's a master to me watching him work. Even more so in this season, I feel like. I don't have the season quite as high just because I responded more to the villain Dan than I did to the hero Dan. I thought that was more an interesting take on him. But the hero Dan is still an amazing person to watch. And even when he's the hero, there's a little bit of villain in him too, like when he's backstabbing Ollie. And the other thing too was that there's heroes and villains in this story. I knew where everybody was. I knew that it was Keisha and Rennie and Dan and Memphis on one side, and it was Jerry and Ollie and April and Michelle on the other side. And I knew where all the pieces on the game board were, and I love the fact that it went back and forth each week, and Dan somehow kept himself safe. So many times his key was the last key out of the box. He almost went on the block, but somehow he saved himself, and it was just the good guys won this season. The story was great. It was just like when Keisha won that HOH in the double eviction and got Ollie out, you were like, this is it. We're gonna do this. Dan's gonna win this season. And then when Jerry won Final 5 HOH, it's like, oh my God, how did that happen? Of all the people to win that competition, Jerry wins, and somehow Dan has the foresight before the HOH to make sure that Memphis makes a deal with Jerry so that Memphis can later save Dan and they can both take control of the game at that point. It was an absolute piece de renaissance. It was just wonderful.
Oh, amazing season. And yeah, again, so much to love here with this season. Alex, what about you? Anything different than that really stands out for you? Or should I say Jerry? What about what do you think of is there anything we haven't talked about that you love about this season?
I love everything about this season. It's my season. No, Carol 300 in the chat room, I think, made the point that I wanted to make, which is this is the season you show a Big Brother newbie. This is what we put on the pedestal in terms of seasons with no returning players, for sure. Obviously you can make the argument even beyond that, but I think it's without a doubt, almost certainly in my mind, that if you're trying to introduce someone to Big Brother, you're not sure if they're going to like it or not. If you show them season 10 and they don't like it, that's a wrap. I think it's pretty safe to say that if they don't like season 10, they're not going to like the rest of it. And that's fair. I think beyond that, there's a lot of great moments, mostly a great cast. You guys mentioned replacement nominee roulette, which is my second favorite, montage of moments in Big Brother, followed up. My first is something we'll talk about in the season. It's number one. You guys didn't mention, but Keisha's birthday is one of the greatest awkward moments in the history of this game. It's really just something incredible in the art of just human discomfort and awkwardness. And that's really fun to watch. There's a lot going on this season. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of people playing the game. And you have one person who really seems, almost reminiscent of Big Brother 2, seems down and out from the get-go and finds the will to just navigate their way to the end. It really is impressive. And it's really something that, to me, kind of will always stand the test of time. I think we'd be hard-pressed to find a season that will be better than 10. And I think another part of it is the twist was back to basics. I think this season, more than most, represents that the game engine that Big Brother is, without twists, really can stand on its own merits.
Yeah. By the way, I want to say really quickly about, the other person who really made this season for me was the Portuguese princess from Providence, Michelle Costa. This girl, I love her. When she got the shaft in that veto competition where they all got the prizes and she got stuck with the leotard, and she turns around in the diary room and says, this is what you're getting from me. It's so great. And then when she's the one who stays up all night studying for that HOH competition. Nobody else does. And it's down to her and what's the girl's name that she was against in that HOH competition?
Sure.
No, the black girl. What's her name?
Libra.
Libra. Yeah, it's Libra and Michelle at the end. It's only the two of them left, and it's going to decide who wins HOH. And Michelle wins it. And it's like, oh, my God. It was so great watching them go, you're going home. And they're all, high-fiving. And it's so funny because, previously, in the previous week, April had been against Michelle, and now they're together. It's crazy. So funny. It's just crazy television.
Yeah, and I think that's a point that Alex brought up earlier with this in terms of everyone having deals with everyone and that sort of thing. That wasn't necessarily going on, but there wasn't really clear sides early on. They were kind of flip-flopping a lot, and then eventually the lines in the sand kind of were drawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that is what made it a lot more enjoyable not a lot more enjoyable, but make it, I guess, more enjoyable than 6. And I will admit, I probably should have had this higher, and the results of this would be different.
I think the chat's with me on this one.
I think so. I think you might have won. So, and we'll get into the number one and why. I still think that the other season we have is better, but that's just my own selfish reasoning behind it. We'll get into that after.
I want to briefly say the reason I personally wouldn't use this as an introductory season to a person new to Big Brother is, and I'd probably choose 8 or 6 before this one, is mostly because I think in order to really appreciate Dan's game, you need to kind of have a basis of Big Brother knowledge, because if this is the first season they watch, they might not really appreciate exactly what it is how great Dan was.
Right.
So that's the reason I don't personally use it as an introductory season. I just want to say that.
Okay. Yeah.
I will say again,
fair enough.
I don't want to go into it too much about our number one, but the reason I think they're very close. I think one of the reasons I put this one above our number one is because the ending worked out perfectly, and the other season it didn't.
All right, we'll get into that. But one other moment before we move on to number one is I also love when Jerry falls in the pool. That is a hilarious moment from this season.
Ollie being terrified of birds.
Yes, that's great too. And then Dan on the feeds was giving Ollie and Rennie swimming lessons. Like, that is amazing. I mean, that's just a great season.
And I love when Dan is voted as America's player for that 1 week, and that's the week that Jesse goes home. And Dan's like, I love that Dan gets the fact that we love him. We're with him, and he knows what he wants. He knows what we want him to do. Like, I love the fact that he's in on the joke with us. He knows what we want, and he's going to give it to us.
Another great moment. I don't know. I think it was just on the feeds. Rennie doesn't understand time zones, and she gets in
that was on the show too.
She's in a huge fight with Dan.
No! Come on, no, Dan, it's New Orleans. Why are you messing with me, Dan? Oh,
Rennie is great.
Rennie's great. And we'll cap it off with this. And if you've read Dan Giesling's book, How a Normal Guy Got Cast on Reality TV, he reveals in the book that he almost got on Big Brother 9. Thank goodness that did not happen. Could you imagine if
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if Dan was on 9 and he wasn't on 10? I mean, 10 still would have been good, but would have been completely different.
Wow.
So, Dan Giesling, baby. All right. Number one in the ranks, guys. It's down to this. So we'll run through them all again, and I won't screw it up like last time. Okay, so the lowest season is we go 17 to season 1. Then we have season 9, season 11, season 13, season 16, season 4, season 5, season 12, season 15, season 17, season 3, season 8, season 2, season 14, season 6, and season 10. And number one overall in the rankings is season 7. I had it ranked number 1. Taran had it number 2. Alex had it number 2. And Brent had it number 5. So I was surprised I was the only one that had this one. Oh, you had it 1. Okay, so then I read this wrong. Never mind. There we go. Alex had it 1. So that's why this one ended up 1. Okay.
Yeah, he did.
So there you go. Exactly. So Alex had it 1. I had it 1. Taran had it 2. Brent had it 5. Big Brother All-Stars. Amazing season. We have all of these returning players. We have Chilltown. We have Danielle. We have the Sovereign Six. We have Jace. We have Diane. We have Nokomis. We have Chicken George. I mean, this is such an amazing cast, such a great group of people. And in my opinion, it is such a shame that they have never gone to a full all-star format since this season, because this was such a success. It's been such a long time. It'll be 10 years next year since they've done a full all-star season. Alex, why do you got it at number 1? Explain to the chat room why that we both had it number 1, because I think we're on the same page here.
We've seen returnees since, but only in fans versus favorite kind of formats, and the returnee players dominate. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think that's what makes this season so great. Everyone has played before. No one has illusions about what this is going to be, or no one's a recruit. Everyone is a former player. And I think, regardless of how this was going to end, I mean, obviously Will and Boogie rising to power and kind of doing what they do, their montages to me make this season from an entertainment perspective. But from a game perspective, I really am hard pressed to find anyone in that house that's not trying to play the game in their own way. Some people are completely hamstrung and limited in terms of what they can do because of who's willing to work with them. But I mean, to me, this had, coming in, this had all the potential that, a Survivor Second Chance does. And I think it absolutely delivered. I think, I was talking about my favorite montage above replacement nominee roulette. And it's when Will and Boogie are, making honorary Chilltown members of everyone left in the house. Unbelievable television, unbelievable strategy. I mean, that to me is Big Brother in a nutshell. That's everything I want in one tight little package. It's phenomenal. I mean, they've got Janelle in there. I think this would be a good time for a Chilltown meeting. She leaves. Erica, we need to bring this Chilltown meeting to order. And then finally with Chicken George at the kitchen table. So, yeah, how about we start this Chilltown meeting, boys? You know what I mean? It's really incredible. You get moments because everyone's back, everyone's played before, everyone recognizes, the cameras, everyone recognizes how to play up their character, their persona. There's so many entertaining moments. There's so many big, larger than life characters. To me, it's, it just is a cut above simply because all these people have experience that they're bringing to the table and they're all just out. I mean, playing their, as Jonathan Penner would say, they're playing their ass off out there. And it's really, really something to see.
Yeah. And to people in the chat room saying, Jordan, why did you have this number one? 2 words, as Brent said earlier, Chill Town. That is why this season is number one, in my opinion. The best alliance ever, in my opinion. Again, my opinion, but I think that those guys just wrecked this season. They should have been the first 2 out. At least Will should have been out incredibly early. He's the only winner on this cast, yet he just steamrolls this season and makes everybody he embarrasses them. He makes Dr. Will and Mike Boogie make the all-stars on this season, the returning players on this season, look like the newbies that Dan was going against in Big Brother 14. That is how good those guys are. And that is just what really made the season for me. And I just think that those guys knocked it out of the park. So entertaining, so good at the game. And they didn't have to rely on competitions. They weaponized Janelle. They used the Legion of Doom to their advantage, all this kind of stuff. And that's why, in my opinion, All Stars is the best season ever in the history of Big Brother US. Brent, you had it number 5. Why down at number 5?
It suffers a little bit for me because of the fact that, like Steve recently said when he was talking about Liz, up against Liz in the final 2, she had somebody that she could implicitly trust, and none of the rest of us had that advantage. Will and Boogie, they had that. They had an advantage that nobody else in the house had. Those 2 were, 2 peas in a pod. They trusted each other implicitly. They didn't care who won. They were going to go to the end of the game together. Nobody else in the house could say that. I think that did suffer. I felt like they had a little bit of an unfair advantage. So yes, the house should have gotten them out, but yes, they had that advantage to begin with. I also was a little bit annoyed by the fact that the women in the house seemed a little stupid. Like they kept going after each other and letting the boys run them. Like Danielle was letting Will run her. Janelle was letting Will run her. Yes, they woke up at the end. By the end, it was too late. They were already, the war was over by that point. So I like that. But this is splitting hairs right now. It's just it's a wonderful season. I don't even mind the fact, looking back on the fact that Boogie won this season, looking at how he talks on the podcast now, looking at how he behaved during Big Brother 14, the fact that he wasn't even broken up about the fact that Ian was the one who betrayed him. Like Boogie is a great player in his own right. Like I said, I felt like he had a little bit of a leg up on everybody in that he was playing with the best, one of the top 2 players the game has ever seen, and he also implicitly had his trust. And that's just amazing to have in a game like this.
Oh, absolutely. Taran, thoughts on Big Brother All-Stars?
It's such a fantastic season from start to finish. There's so many great and classic moments from it. It starts off right off the bat, Allison versus Danielle. Like, what a crazy, first vote. Then, you have the how much do you want it veto where Chicken George wins, and then James has to backdoor Jace, and what a moment that is. And then we also get Will's I hate you all speech in that moment, which again is fantastic. Will does a great job of making this season entertaining. He spends hours in the diary room getting it right, making sure everything he says is perfect. Which thank you, Will. His diary rooms with Boogie also great. I also love when we see Boogie in the diary room and he's saying stuff that's completely contradictory to what Will's saying, because Will just like Boogie's not even in the know yet. Like, Boogie's like, I have to make sure Will doesn't go on the block when Chicken George is HOH, and Will's like, I want to go on the block. I think that's what I want to do.
That's so funny.
Oh God, I forgot about that. That's so good. Yes.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yes, I forgot that Boogie was not in on that. Yes, and Will's trying to make it happen, and Boogie's like trying to protect him. It's so great. I forgot all about that.
So good.
And throughout the whole season, I mean, I think there are a couple slow weeks here and there, like when Diane and Nokomis leave. But I mean, Danielle is fantastic in the season. Her boot episode is fantastic when she's knocking on the door. And they get Erica to backstab her. They get Janelle to backstab Marcellus. All the way down to the end where they completely blow the game. What is wrong with them? Why? You let these two girls, like, it's such a rookie mistake to let these two girls talk in the way that they do, and to promise them the things that they promised them without thinking, oh, they might figure this out, because it's really obvious that they're going to figure it out. And this is one of the things I think that really differentiates Dan and Will's game, is that Dan always had these final end game positions on lock, and Will was in a very dangerous predicament both times. And I'm not saying necessarily that Dan is better than Will. I think they're pretty even, to be honest. But Will's end game is really what kills him here. And I think that's what for me makes Big Brother 10 a better season, because it ends on a much higher and better note. Because watching the final three, and I mean, granted, the endurance competition is fantastic, where Janelle unfortunately, loses her grip immediately, and then Boogie just steps off.
Remember Richard Hatch, Julie?
Boogie steps off first. Sorry. And that great move on Boogie's part too.
Yes.
Getting it in their heads. He's never winning that competition anyway, and it ends up distracting Janelle, which gives him the win of the whole game. So. So that's fun, but again, like, if Will wins this season, it's definitely comparable to Big Brother 10.
Oh, and Taran is frozen. Oh no! Look at this. Is this hilarious? Look at Taran. He's frozen. His face.
Well, he still looks cute though, so that's good.
No, it's a good way to be frozen. He's getting lots of props still.
Yes, give him props. Yes,
that's hilarious. Okay, so we're
is he back?
Yeah, I don't know. Here, Taran, I'm gonna kick you out, and then you just hop back in. Okay. So see you later, Taran. Okay. So
girl, bye.
Bye, Felicia. But all right, there we go. I think that was pretty crazy. I think I agree with what Taran was saying there. I think this has been an amazing discussion, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Any final thoughts before Taran hopefully joins us back on here, Brent?
No, I think this has been really entertaining. Some things that have been said today, I had forgotten about. You can't remember everything that happened in every season, so it's so fun to listen to everybody what their favorite memories are. I know this ended up being a 3-hour podcast. I feel like the people who watch this and listen to this are the people that love 3-hour podcasts anyway, talking about Big Brother. And this is the last Big Brother podcast we're going to get for a long time, maybe. So, I mean, we're trying to give you your money's worth, people. I hope you enjoyed it today. Hello, Taran.
Hey, Taran's back. All right, there he is. Okay.
Yes.
Taran, you want to finish that tangent? Or
I don't know where I got cut off.
Yeah,
it's okay. You got frozen. You were talking about Will, and if Will is the winner of this season, it's up there with Dan, but he really dropped the ball.
That was pretty much done. So.
Okay, cool. All right, cool.
There you go. Perfect. Alex, any final thoughts before we head out of here today?
Yeah, this has been really fun. I appreciate you guys putting up with my lack of a voice. I'm surprised that it held up as well as it did. But yeah, no, I think, once you're talking about 7, 10, some of these seasons, you're like splitting the finest of hairs. We could certainly talk about them forever, and it's fun to do so. But ultimately, this is all opinion. This is very subjective. And, everyone's got their own favorite. And I think that's part of what makes Big Brother great.
I agree. Taran, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I will again reiterate. In everyday life, I will say everybody has everybody's opinion is equally valid. Even if you think 9 is the best season, even if you think 1 is the best season, that's entirely up to you.
Not if you think 1's the best.
I won't fault you, even if you think 1's the best season, because I think you have every right to be entertained what you decide to be entertained by. I'm somebody that likes Redemption Island, so I feel for you if you like an unpopular season. But this was a lot of fun to talk about these seasons and to be angry about opinions, even if it's just for fun. And thank you. Our viewers, amazingly consistent. We have barely lost any. I mean, we started with like 50 and we went up to 70 and now we're like at 60. So
I agree. Thank you.
They're the real MVPs. These are the real MVPs.
Alex took the words out of my mouth, man. I was going to say, everybody who's still watching this over 3 hours into this is two times as long as a normal episode of the RHAPpy Hour. So seriously, you guys are the real MVP for sticking around and listening to this thing. I really do appreciate it. Brent said this might be the last of the Big Brother discussions. Well, it's not for me because I plan on doing one of these every other week, and hopefully Taran, Alex, and Brent can join me again, hopefully in the near future. And we'll have another one of these talks, maybe talk about winners, maybe talk about who's better, Dr. Will or Dan, maybe Derek, who knows? That could be a fun one. Dumbest moves of all time. We talked about that today. There's a lot of different directions we can go in. Best or worst showmances. I know Andy Heron was tweeting you, Alex, saying that he wanted to get invited. So maybe we'll get Andy up in here one of these times, or I'll just do it with Andy or something. We'll figure it out. But guys, thank you, all three of you, for being so generous with your time. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to support the reality TV RHAPpy Hour, there's a few ways you can do so. You can go to robhasawebsite.com/RHAPpy Hour with an R at the front. So RHAPpy Hour. So that's happy hour with an R at the front. Man, I'm so tired of this. My normal routine, I'm losing it. Beyond that, you can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jordan Parhar, and you can learn about all of the new shows and podcasts I'm doing. And make sure you also leave a rating and review for the podcast as well. I had this promotion where for everyone who left a review for the podcast, they were going to get their names thrown into a hat to win a Skype call with me, a 30-minute Skype call with me at the end of the Big Brother season. Well, the person that won has not claimed it yet. So if that person does not claim it between now and December, I'm giving them quite a bit of time, we're going to have 2 Skype calls at the end of the Survivor season. So for everybody that left a review, your name is still in the hat. So that's good for one of these 2 Skype calls. And if you want your name thrown in the hat to talk about anything with me, and I don't know why you would want to talk to me, but hey, maybe you would. If you want to talk about casting or Big Brother Canada 3, or you want to have one of these debates with me and tell me I'm crazy for saying that season 7 is the best season ever, then we can talk about that. It's going to be great. So make sure, please leave a review and a rating for me on iTunes. That really means a lot. You can do so again by going to robhasawebsite.com/RHAPpy Hour. That helps the podcast grow. Okay. Make sure you follow all these guys on Twitter, but who are we kidding? You do already. Taran is at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Alex is at Alex Kidwell. Guys, hashtag for this episode. What do you got?
Well, wasn't it something about Jerry or something? What did we say at the beginning? Like, wasn't it like Alex is Jerry, or I don't know what the hell it was, but yeah.
Well, I think it was Alex came up with, what was it? Blab hates Brent. Was that it?
I did
I think the hashtag should be Dan marry me, like that. I'll take that.
Dan is sexy. That could be one.
Dan is sexy. Yeah.
We could use some help in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, chat. Yeah, hook us up, chat room. Or hashtag feel better Alex. That would be good.
Right.
Or Alex, or let's see, Jerry Kidwell. That would be, maybe that's a good one.
Yes, Jerry Kidwell.
Okay.
Jerry Kidwell. I like that one.
Hashtag Jerry Kidwell. Okay, sweet. All right. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And seriously, if you did make it this far in the podcast, please tweet me and let me know, because I want to know who actually sat through this thing and listened to it, because it really means a lot to me and I really do appreciate it. So please tweet me and let me know. All right, guys. So for Taran Armstrong, Brent Wolgamott, and Alex Kidwell, I am Jordan Parhar. Hashtag Jerry Kidwell. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.